Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chair. Our first motion, Mr. Chair, I move we approve the superintendent's recommendations for employment listed on the January 1st through 31st, 2023 Personnel Ratification Report. Second.
You have a second?
Yes.
It's been
Vice
moved and
Campbell.
seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the monthly adult education homeschool report for February 2nd, 2023.
Have a second?
Second.
Ms. Boatright? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Next item.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve amendment number 32 with MB Construction Company, Inc. for the field house renovations at Hilton Head Island High School based on the guaranteed maximum price GMP $1,270,740.
It's second by Mrs. Boatright. Discussion? Mr. Smith?
In reference to this motion, this is something that came from the taxpayers. This is a part of the referendum. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, well, due to this being a part of the referendum, I will support it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Have one abstention. Next item.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve amendment number 32 with Ajax Building Company for the safety, security, technology, infrastructure, and athletic scope at May River High School in the amount of $6,115,818.
Ms. Gordon, is it a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
And is this also a part of the bond referendum?
Yes, it is, sir.
Well, due to that, I will support it as well.
Any further discussion?
But I just want to say that I am kind of it is a little stirring up my. I feel a certain type. I'm gonna support it because there's a bond referendum item, but I'm just not happy about putting a turf at a school where has been built in the small time that it's been built. And I understand giving kids being fair across the board and giving kids what everyone has that the voters has voted on that. But when you have other schools who have other building needs and things that we should have, then hopefully on this next referendum that we are taking that into consideration, because I do believe that our taxpayers could be spent on different items that could be more beneficial to the district. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are those opposed? Those abstain? We have two abstentions, Ms. Boatright and Dr. Wisniewski. Now,
Mr. Chair, that concludes all of our motions coming out of executive session.
thank you, Madam Secretary. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Any discussion? Ms. Boatright.
Superintendent Rodriguez, what is the instructional support tutoring update where there's no materials or any information in our packet?
This is something that our Dr. Stratos is going to share and talk with the board about an initiative we've developed to support our schools in having a more targeted approach to the tutoring support students receive.
That sounds great. I do like Dr. Stratos's presentations, but I would like to get something in board docs when we have something come out, just an exec who's presenting and what it is so that I can kind of prepare.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. We will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Statement of media. Has the media been notified? Media has been notified. Our next item is a student performance. The performance this evening is from Will Branch Early College High School band students performing Till We Meet Again, arranged by Ronald J. Sargé, under the direction of J. Anthony Gaskin, Director of Bands and Choir. Sir, it's all yours.
Our school board members, Mr. Campbell. We would also like to acknowledge our school administration, Ms. Coleman and Mr. Smith. Thank you for coming and being out tonight. We would like to extend a thank you to the school board for allowing us to perform tonight. We hope that you enjoyed the performance, and we are happy to be back. One and two and three.
you very much. Next order of business. This is points of celebration. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Colonel Geyer. I want to share with you under points of celebration that this is National School Counseling Week, sponsored by the American School Counselors Association. And that's next week, February 6th through the 10th. To highlight the importance of this week, I want to read the following. February 6th through 10th, 2023 is proclaimed as National School Counseling Week, whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential. And whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents, as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational growth of their children. And whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school, this is the upcoming week, National School Counseling Week. School counselors have a tremendous impact in helping students achieve their school success and plan for a career. Many thanks to our district school counselors and educators who collaborate in support of all of our students. Thank you.
And thank you for our school counselors. Our next item is public comments. This is the first public comment period. We ask that people confine their comments to issue within the domain of the board, to refrain from racial comments, obscenities, and vulgarities, shall not reference or make derogatory comments about specific individuals by name, and shall not commit other breaches of respect. Board members, speakers may reference the name of a specific board members, but such communications will not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar language. You're asked not to exceed 3 minutes. Speakers may reference the name of a specific board members, but such communications will not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar. 3 minutes. There'll be a visible audio timing device shall be used. We have and I'll allocate 30 minutes for this session. We have many public comments tonight. If we run over 30 minutes, I'll ask the board if they wish to extend the period or push the people that have not had a chance to speak yet to the second session. Our first comment comes from Mr. David Cook. And the subject is book review.
Start the clock. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Rodriguez and staff. I appreciate you giving me some time to speak tonight. Just some questions because it's hard to get responses through email. When communication comes through to the school district to superintendent's office from the State Department of Education, who would handle that email when it comes in? Is that something Candace can answer or Dr. Rodriguez?
We don't answer questions.
Okay.
We listen to your comments, sir.
Okay, thank you. Because the questions don't get answered in emails either. So, but I understand. Who's responsible for making sure the school librarians are complying with the directives and their job descriptions and directives that come from the State Department of Education? Is there someone that's over the librarians that handles something like that? To all the people that believe there's book banning going on, please don't be so ignorant. Please leave the Bible out of the discussion. The Bible does not use any sexually explicit language. If your Bible does, then that's your choice. There's nothing more disgusting than coming in here and hearing people talk about book banning. It's based on their own ignorance. Have a little bit of pride and educate yourself. Using that language speaks volumes of your intellect. consider a new gig. The last round of books were all written by mostly white heterosexuals, so I really don't want to hear people talking about how minorities are being targeted or a class of people are being targeted based on their sexuality. This is what accountability looks like. And if you can't stomach it locally and it triggers you, then you probably need to walk away. If you're getting upset over people raising question in the community as to whether or not these materials are suitable for the schools, take a ride up to Columbia. Every year they have an invitation for public review of textbooks before they're even sent into schools. In a lot of cases, books don't even make it. Even more embarrassing is the fact that the school district staff are catering to the group of people in the community and helping them organize to come out here and speak against a few people that have done the work of 30 librarians. It's unprofessional. It's unnecessary. I'm not sure why district employees are engaging in that behavior. The reality is 30 librarians haven't done their job for the last 5 or 10 years. The majority of the books on this list were written after 2005. None of them would be considered literary classics. None of them are serious literary works because they're not used for curriculum such as biology, anthropology, sex education, health education, or science. In closing, I appreciate all of your hard work. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, Miss Mary Foster, and her subject is removal of books from school libraries.
Good evening. My name is Mary Foster, and I want to start by thanking you for your commitments to the students, parents, and teachers of Beaufort County, and for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My husband and I live here in Beaufort and have raised 2 children here. I've worked as a teacher for over 20 years, and I also helped start the first charter school in Beaufort County, Riverview Charter School. You may be familiar with the idea that books can serve as mirrors and windows, mirrors that reflect the reader and their life or experience, windows that give the reader a view of a life or experience unlike their own. I could give hundreds of examples of books that have served as mirrors and windows in my life. In elementary school, Dear Mr. Henshaw was the first book I read that featured a main character who was processing his parents' divorce. Reading this just 3 years after my own parents' divorce helped me in so many ways. I'm sure all of you have books that you could name that have served as mirrors of your own life or windows into the lives of others. When we limit the books in our school libraries to only stories that a small group of people think are true or valid, we limit the possibilities for all readers to have this mirror and window experience. I'm fortunate that both of my children are avid readers. We did not and do not fear them learning or reading about experiences, beliefs, and cultures that might be different from our own. What we do fear is the worldview of a few, limiting the opportunities our children and other children will have to learn and grow as contributing members of this beautifully diverse world. Our daughter is a student leader of Beaufort Academy's Diversity Awareness Youth Literacy Organization known as DALO. I'm so proud of her and the other students who choose to participate in this club. They're using their limited free time to read books that challenge them to see the world as a much bigger and more complex place than life they know in Beaufort. They're gaining empathy and insight to things our family values. I fully understand that other parents may not feel the way my husband and I do and might want to limit their children's access to certain books. There is a process in place in Beaufort County for them to do that. The people who support removing books that have been selected and approved by trained professionals are bombarding your district office with FOIA requests. Some of the most recent requests specified a search for emails containing the word DALO. Again, DALO is a volunteer student club that was created by a former Beaufort High student and is led by students. It's literally a book club. Like any book club, no one is forced to join, and the students work together to agree upon the books they will read and discuss. These efforts to limit access to books are short-sighted at best. Books are not endangering children and young adults. They are empowering them. But if you disagree, then opt your child out of reading them. Board members, you can and should trust the professionals hired by the district who select books for school libraries and classrooms. I urge you to vote to uphold the decisions of the most recent review committees and return the books to the library shelves. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Isabella Troy. Her comments are on book banning.
My name is Isabella Troy, and I'm a senior at Battery Creek High School, as well as a member of DALO. In each of my previous speeches, I had a very specific focus, my first being substance abuse and my most recent being representation of minorities in books. This time, I'd like to focus on anger. What we have here is a division of people. On the right, we have parents furious that students have access to read books about sexual assault, drugs, violence, self-harm, Jim Crow laws, and so many more atrocities. And on the left, we have parents angry that the stories of these individuals are on the road to being silenced. At some point, we need to reach a common ground. Anger is good. It means that you're alive. But learning how to conduct your anger is key. I propose we start conducting our anger towards things that are notorious for causing harm in schools or to children in general. Statistics show that each day 1 in 12 children are killed, which is around 2 million a day. Do you know how many of those 1 in 12 were killed by a book? None of them. Do you know how many were killed by a gun? All of them. Books are not our enemy. I can promise you that there are things in front of us that pose a greater threat than folded paper. Throughout history, depriving people of the right to read certain books was a form of control. And in 2023, we're thriving in numerous areas. We have unrealistic advances in medicine, mechanics, technology, engineering, and I'm pretty sure I read something about a flying car, but I digress. We have taken all these steps forward in every aspect. So why is it that we're taking this huge step back when it comes to allowing students to read? I would like to reiterate that the problem is not the books. As I've stated before, if your kid is home reading instead of out on the streets, then you did your job as parents and educators. I've recently been reading a book, The Freedom Writer's Diary. It's a book on the long list of books up for debate. This book is filled with stories from kids that look like Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, Tamir Rice, kids that look like me, and how they overcome racial injustices and failed systems by reading the very books that are being banned. The problem parents have is with the contents of the books. If the problem's with the contents of the books, then as a whole, we should divert our anger towards the source and create a safer environment for children across the globe. Then we would stop seeing books about suffrage and start seeing more books about success. I'd like to conclude by saying we need to start being on each other's side. As Kendrick Lamar states, this is where mental stability meets talent. We all have something to bring to the table. This is not my world. This is not your world. This is not America's world. This is our world. And it's about time we start acting like it.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker, Mr. Pete Cooper. His topic is book bans.
Good evening. My name is Peter Cooper, and I'm here to talk about these book bans. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is that these texts be available within these school libraries. A school library is a place for children to be exposed to unique books and perspectives that they may not have been exposed to otherwise. Unique books curated by professional librarians and teachers who know how to properly expand the minds of the children they serve. Now, you may be asking how me, some kid, would understand the importance of these books. Well, I'm a faculty brat, or the son of a teacher. While pregnant with me, my mother taught in a juvenile detention center near Baltimore, Maryland. She taught children who were involved in such dangerous activities as gang violence, theft, drug trafficking, you name it. These children were not bad kids. They simply did what they knew, and their schools did not have the funding to supply them with the books that showed the other perspectives of their actions. My mother exposed them to those books, those new perspectives on the things they had done. And were they inspired to do more? No. After reading some of the very books that are on this list today, of those that are supposedly dangerous for our kids, they learn the error of their ways and that they could positively contribute to society. I know some of them today. These books open their hearts and minds to the extent that a group of children formerly associated with MS-13, the most infamous criminal group in the nation today, got together and did this for my pregnant mother. So if you're wondering how some kid would know why access to these books is important, I know because I've been swaddled in the good these books can do since the day I was born. The children most at risk of making the same mistakes as my mother's students are the very same children that will be most affected by these bans. The children who have no other way to be exposed to these new ideas than their school libraries. Every time there's a young person on the news who fell into that trap of doing dangerous activity without truly understanding the harm it would cause their families, their friends, all those affected by their actions, and society as a whole, my heart breaks not only for those they hurt, but for the poor young person who was a victim of a system that was unable to save them, unable to show them the books, the perspectives that would help them understand the extent of their actions. So I ask you, from the bottom of my heart, I plead, if you truly wish to create a safer world for your children, allow these professional librarians and teachers like my mother, who care so deeply to help these children who are capable of so much love, from being trapped in this cycle of pain. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker, Lizzie Foster. Her topic is book ban.
My name is Elizabeth Foster, and I'm a senior at Beaufort Academy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I attended the last Beaufort County School Board meeting and witnessed some comments that I found troubling. In expressing their stance on returning 7 of the 97 books to school libraries, one board member remarked that, quote, parents can take their children to the public library and check these out or buy them off of Amazon and guarantee that the book goes into the child's hands, unquote. To me, this comment was unknowingly made from a place of privilege, so I would like to shed some light on the financial situations of the students being discussed. According to the BCSC website, 55.9% of students in Beaufort County are currently living in poverty. For reference, the census defines a household of 2 as living below the poverty line if their combined annual income is less than $18,932. From a financial standpoint, these families cannot afford to simply purchase a book on Amazon for their children. 40% of Beaufort County students are on free or reduced lunch. Their families cannot even always afford to buy their meals. Additionally, many parents of students living in poverty are working multiple jobs to support their families. Depending on the day of the week, public libraries typically close from 5 to 7 p.m. There is simply not enough time or energy in the day to expect parents to pursue resources that should already be offered in their children's schools. Another comment was made at the last board meeting that unintentionally made a point with which I do somewhat agree. One member questioned, quote, are we really going to tax and levy taxes on taxpayers to put this book on the shelves twice, once in the public library and once on the school shelves? I don't know that I agree with that as somebody that's supposed to be fiscally responsible, unquote. For the purpose of saving time and energy, I'm going to ignore the potential threat this comment poses to the existence of school libraries and address the member's point about fiscal responsibility. I believe in the necessity of school libraries and have no issue with taxpayers' money being used to fund their diverse selection of literature. However, having to establish review committees required to read all 97 of these books is an alarmingly wasteful concentration of resources. Instead of purchasing 2 copies of every book to fill libraries, taxpayer money is going towards buying 7 to 10 copies of all 97 books just to complete review processes. Meanwhile, Beaufort County Elementary Schools recently reported less than 10% of students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades meeting or exceeding reading proficiency expectations. Rather than allocating resources with the intention of improving literacy rates, the county is actually forced to spend time and money addressing attempts to remove opportunities for students to read. I hope that my commentary has emphasized the complexity of book bans and the varying significance of their impact. I also want complainants to understand how their actions are hoarding district resources, denying Beaufort County students the attention and money they need and deserve for a successful education. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker, Millie Bennett. Her topic is book bans.
Hello, my name is Millie Bennett, and I am a senior at Beaufort High School, where I'm the president of DALO there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. In the last school board meeting that I attended, multiple speakers, including a board member here, in favor of removing books from school library shelves, stated that they were not in favor of banning books, and that they were, in fact, not banning books at all. Banning books is defined by the First Amendment Encyclopedia as a form of censorship that occurs when private individuals, government officials, or organizations remove books from libraries, school reading lists, or bookstore shelves because they object to their content, ideas, or themes. As defined here, it is obvious to me, and should be obvious to you and the book banners, that the actions that they are taking are indeed book banning. What this denial of the truth says to me is that those who ban books are ashamed. They are ashamed of their actions. They know that they are wrong and are acting in their own interests rather than for the collective good of our community. What these actions tell me is that those who have proposed the ban, have proposed the book removals, have not taken the time to actually read these books. Because if they had, they would know the importance of their contents and the impact of the stories on people, especially the growing minds of students. They would know that these books build empathy and grow mindsets and connect our community for the better. Rather, instead of actually sitting down and reading these profound and impactful books, they are judging them by excerpts out of context through the lens of their own political agendas. This has happened before. All over the world, all throughout history, information through books, the most innately human way to share stories other than oral storytelling, has been restricted, has been banned. It is a tale as old as time, and the reasons have always been the same, and they remain the same now. Books are banned for their power to connect, to share, to educate, and to give a voice to the voiceless. Let Beaufort County be a place where we uplift each other rather than take away each other's voices and stories. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker, Janet McCauley. Her topic is banned books.
Thank you for this opportunity. I want to commend the district for its clear, concise, well-researched and thought-out policies and procedures. In particular, how you have appointed committees that are reviewing materials. I spent 35 years as a school administrator, including serving as a school superintendent. In the last 15 years of my career as a vice president for an international education service provider, setting up public charter schools, mentoring school boards, and working with failing turnaround schools. I worked in South Carolina in what was known as the corridor of shame. There's a shortage of teachers and folks willing to work in education today, and our professionals are expected to provide services significantly beyond just teaching subject matter. Today, we face new fears for our personal safety as our society is more divided and less civil. I write grants for several nonprofits here in the area, and as a requirement to write grants, I had to take classes in equity, diversity, and inclusion, and every grant I write requires that I explain how those funds are going to improve how we approach these challenges. Research is very clear that the younger a child reads, the more likely their success in life. We're so fortunate here in Beaufort, a hotbed of literacy. We have so many incredible, talented teachers, librarians, authors, and resources available. And I especially want to commend the members of DALO as I observe their focus on promoting literacy, diverse viewpoints, social justice, and inclusivity. These incredibly talented young people are the hope for our future, providing opportunities for intellectually curious and empathetic readers dedicated to service and positive social change. And I've had the privilege of attending many author discussions led by students, book club conventions, teddy bear picnics, read-alouds, and I watch them interact with young and old alike. I'm also a licensed history guide, and I believe we cannot shy away from difficult truths or uncomfortable discussions. Critical problem solving is not easy, but it must continue. The district has opt-out options, and they're sensitive to age-appropriate ratings. As a district, we cannot go backwards. Above all, please respect the opinions of your staff and committees and be especially sensitive to the mental health and well-being of your students and staff.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Claire Bennett, and her topic is thanking the board about book challenges. Please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Claire Bennett, and I am the mother of 3 children, 2 of whom have spent the majority of their educational careers in Beaufort County schools, where they have found great personal, academic, and athletic success. I would like to personally thank the board, the superintendent, the school district staff, and all of the dedicated teachers, librarians, coaches, and school administrative staff for their countless hours of work. Your dedication does make a difference in the lives of students and families. As a native Beaufortonian and a graduate of Beaufort High School, I would also like to express my dismay about the division that is being stoked within our beloved community. Beaufort is my hometown, and I cherish it. I cherish its people, its diversity, and its rich history. And I'm only ever interested in its edification. Over the summer, Moms for Liberty held a local training event that was advertised using the following statement: unless you are politically feared, you will never be politically respected. It is evident that this misguided attempt to sow to sow fear in order to reap political power is being implemented within the framework of the current book challenges without any regard for the deleterious effects it will have on our students, our schools, or our greater community. In addition to increasing the polarization in our community, these book challenges are diverting scarce resources away from improving our schools, ultimately resulting in the weakening of our community. Massive amounts of time are being spent catering to the demands of a small, politically motivated group. Public comments at school board meetings are often disrespectful and threatening, and teachers and staff are being directly targeted by intimidation tactics. Student voices are also being targeted, as evidenced by the latest complainant FOIA request that sought access to student information. As the daughter, granddaughter, and grandniece of public school teachers who spent their careers teaching in this very county, and as a parent who has the utmost respect for our educators and our students, I am deeply troubled by these extreme tactics. It is our job as adults to model respectful and responsible civic engagement to the youth of this community. Lastly, as polarization continues to increase in our country, library shelves remain one of the last places where the beautiful tapestry of human stories can peacefully coexist. For this reason, many consider libraries to be sacred spaces, myself included. In a country that was built on the grand idea of freedom, let's not allow the political motivations of a few to destroy the great supporters of intellectual freedom in our communities, our public and school libraries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Wendy Lycombe, and her topic is the book list.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Lycombe, and thank you for hearing me tonight. I'm the English Department Chair at Beaufort High School, and I am the advisor of DALO, Diverse Adolescent Youth Literacy Organization. Our club focuses on our mutual appreciation for books and reading. In our third year of existence, we continue our mission to learn more about our world through books, and we continue to give back to the community by volunteering at Read Aloud and literacy events. The young adults who are here, and of whom I am incredibly proud, have spoken with conviction, grace, and eloquence. They are standing for what they believe in, and as their teacher, I'm not going to let them stand alone. The emotions surrounding this proposed book ban has been polarizing. However, both groups are fighting for the best interest of students. Protocols are in place to assess books used in our schools. Parents' rights to decide what their children read is not a question. Opt-out forms inform teachers of parents' wishes. Teachers assign the student a mutually agreeable text. Our school librarians assess books based on specific criteria with their understanding of the school's climate and community. National and state library association recommendations influence book choices, and library books are read before they are put on the shelves. Once read, books may be designated for different educational settings. School librarians are a parent's ally. Librarians, when aware of parental objections to certain topics, direct students' book choices and obtain permission for the student to check out the book. Encouraging book conversations between parents and students is a goal of librarians. The current list of objectionable titles was reviewed by BookLooks. This site's role in our current protocol needs to be examined for objectivity, credibility, and reliability. All stakeholders need to be represented as we make curricular decisions. One group cannot and should not be dictating what can be read in school. A parent can control what their child can read. However, that right does not extend to what all children can read. I respect my students and their parents. Books that are read as a part of an AP curriculum are considered works of merit based on the following criteria. The book stands the test of time. The theme is relatable to all humankind. The book is judged to be artistic, creative, and meritorious by the community of readers. The author's intent is to create a work that is artistic versus a commercial success written for entertainment. The plot is not formulaic, and the book is not a work of pulp fiction. Teachers of other grades make informed choices for their reading material in their classrooms based on advice from the National Council of Teachers of English and the American Library Association. My students have researched and investigated the credibility of the sources and the objectives of the organizations that fueled this grievance. They have crafted well-founded arguments based on research and multiple perspectives. They know there is a danger in only listening to a single story or a single website. There is strength in our differences, and it is that understanding our unique
Madam,
backgrounds
you're
and
giving it
ability
up.
to learn that others can.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Robin Leibenberg, and her topic is book bans committee review.
Liebenberg, hi, thank you.
Sorry.
How do we grow and engage readers? This is the challenge educators face now. Ages 15 to 44 read 10 minutes or less a day. This is the challenge the school board should be addressing. Using taxpayer dollars for committee after committee to books this board approved to populate library shelves. What a waste of everyone's time. Why didn't you simply provide access to these books for the complainant's children? First Amendment states, respecting religion, free exercise or of the freedom of speech or the press, people peaceable to assemble, to petition the government for redress of grievances. This government, this board, children freedom to read a book because of parents are on a tear. Do others have rights here? This board has recently received a barrage of FOIAs. This is a tactic to target students from DALO, others who speak against them. If this does not abridge the freedom of speech, the right to assemble peacefully, to petition for a cause, in some cases, the right to privacy in addressing your educational concerns about your own child, then what does? Shame on you if you agree to this. At the January 17th meeting, specifics are important. How can you object to something unless you know what it is? Is this another tactic? The complaint mired in lists 100 books and authors, so clearly that information is available. At any school, at any time, a parent could hand any teacher or librarian the list their own child should not access, and those educators would comply. But that's not what they did. Pornography, it's quite the trigger word, isn't it? In dictionaries, it's printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings. So intent is essential to the label. Sexual content does not equal pornography. Might be a positive human experience, an expression of love, creation of family. Why is it so reviled? Our list is a book looks list, is the same list schools face nationwide. The coincidence doesn't really pass the smell test, does it? Keep the books and the reviews. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker, Tony Cambria, and his topic is academic performance.
Good evening, Board. In May of 2022, 1,822 students participated in the state's algebra end of course exam. More than 1,000 students scored a grade of either a D or an F. 500 of those 20 students scored an F. Similarly, of the 440 African-American students who participated in the same exam, more than 330 scored a D or an F. More than 200 scoring an F. Hopefully, this data will catch your attention. In one of our largest and most diverse high schools, where 266 students were tested, not one student received an A, which is a score of 90 to 100. Not one student. This information was mailed to the full board. One board member responded. Disappointing, but not surprising. Legislation has authorized the Board of Education with several critical responsibilities. One of them is accountability, which includes performing continuous assessment of all conditions affecting education. Another is advocacy, advocating on behalf of students and their schools to ensure the students are treated equitably and in a diverse society. Mathematics is the universal language. All in this room would agree that these skills are essential for any child dreaming of becoming a military officer, a teacher, a doctor, a businessman, a welder, a chef, a carpenter, a superintendent of schools. The intent of my comments was to provide transparency, demonstrate information equity, and attract your attention in a public forum. By reviewing the algebra scores, how will our aspiring students compete in a global workforce? Jobs requiring strong math skills are the fastest growing, projected to increase by 31% by 2017. Math skills are required for students to be college and career ready and considered necessary for all other related works. There are many questions that this board must ask. In public, perhaps start with these two. What is Bluffton High School doing to achieve their results? What is Beaufort High School doing to achieve their results? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your comment. Board members, 30 minutes has passed. Do I hear a motion to continue? We have 3 more speakers that have given us a note. Do we have any online and 1 telephonic? Dr. Wisniewski.
I move that we complete the public comments.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to complete the public comments. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously. Our next speaker is a Mr. Mel Campbell. His topic is board preparation. Welcome, Mr. Campbell. Former board member.
Good evening. As a former member of the board, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for your service. I know what it is to deal with so many perspectives from which you must make sometimes very difficult decisions. It is in that vein that I come here tonight to ask you to look through many lenses. One lens in particular tends to be overlooked as its people are not here demanding your attention. They are quite quietly hoping that you will do your due diligence and be fair to all parties, particularly their children. Let me be clear, I'm not here pushing an agenda of any kind. I'm here to ask you to investigate the rich diversity and history of Beaufort County, which is tied with the theater to the 1700s that really can't be ignored. Why is this history important? Just as it is for all cultures, the Gullah Geechee people are interested in not only preserving their history, but are also interested in helping their children thrive in today's world. Understanding that history and culture helps to go beyond our own experiences, like book reading, educators need to know how deeply the roots in this county affect the lives in this county and the educational needs today. As a teacher, I can tell you that students learn best when teachers in the classroom care enough to know where they came from and to know how to best help them. I submit that as a board, you must also do the work of understanding all constituents, including the rich history of the Gullah Geechee population here. Do you know about the Stonewall Rebellion? Do you know the history of the slave market in Savannah and Charleston? History of the indentured servant and the freedman in this country? First Regiment of all the Black Union Army in Port Royal. You know about Robert Smalls, Harriet Tubman. Mitchellville, the first freed slave town in the U.S., right on Hilton Head Island. Penn Center, the first school for freedmen. The color culture is, wow, is known for preserving more of their African linguistic and cultural heritage than any other African community. I ask you to do your research and study the culture and then address the needs that have developed over time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Debbie Barton. Our topic is books.
Hi, good evening. I want to start my statement tonight by just making a quoting or saying a quote from famous Thomas Sowell. Education is not merely neglected education is not merely neglected in many of our schools today, but is replaced to a great extent by ideological indoctrination. Famous quote by Thomas Sowell over a decade ago. When I was 11 years old in 1971, I was a victim of a pedophile. Had these books under the guise of great literature, freedom of speech that we are speaking of tonight, filled with stories of rape, incest, and pedophilia, had they been in my school library for me to have easy access to and read, that virtually makes this behavior normal and commonplace, I would have been confused. Without these types of books available to me, I was able to rely on my innocent instincts and cry out to my mother that first night. Had I not, due to confusion, the next time I would have been with this man, and things certainly would have gone to the next level with worse consequences for me. I looked up the book Grown right away. It gives you a warning. Warnings. Mentions of sexual abuse, rape, assault, child abuse, kidnapping, addiction to opioids. And then I went on to the next book that's up, Milk and Honey. Easy for me to Google and find on the internet. He had the smell of starvation on his lips, which he picked up from his father, feasting on his mother at 4:00 a.m. A page later, here is a drawing, a physical drawing of a woman with her breasts and her legs spread wide open and the words in between. You have been taught your legs are a pit stop for men that need a place to rest, a vacant body, empty enough for guests, but no one ever comes and is willing to stay. Next page or two after that, he guts her with his fingers like he's scraping the inside of a cantaloupe. This is right this children have access to this. Why in a school library, this subject matter, this particular subject matter? How is it helping the mental health of these very young people? You are all aiding.
Ma'am, your time is up. Moving to the next agenda item. We have a phone call first. Phone call.
Put you on speakerphone. You have 3 minutes, okay? Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. This evening, I would like to reiterate my frustration with the book review committees. Now I understand that there are less than half of the amount of committee members per book review team, and that the review committees are made up of a majority of Board of Education employees. This is not going unnoticed. I would also like to pose a question. How are our board members and review committee members able to fairly judge a book with such little time to read them? I would explain the process I went through this past week after handing in the opt-out form to the school librarians at my daughter's school. I handed in the form, making sure to note that I did not want my children taking out books that have explicit sexual matters or explicit violence. Unsurprisingly, there is confusion on the part of the administrators. I was told to send in a list of book titles that I didn't want our children to have, as well as the author's name. At the last board meeting, it was said that this would be an impossible task. I was also contacted by one of the middle school social studies teachers who wanted to know what exactly I disliked about the curriculum. He was contacting me because the principal sent the library form to him so he could excuse our children from classes dealing with slavery or war. Naturally, this is not what I intended, and I had to explain that over and over. Perhaps the form should be revamped, the administrators given direction, and it should be made easier to find on the website. I would like to request the Board of Education revise their online registration to require only proof of residency and dates of birth, and to leave out hidden consent to CRT and SEL. Law requires only birth certificates, so the rest of the click-through are superfluous. Next, I'd like to touch on math. As a district, state, and nation, math is down. Students are not at grade level because of the lockdown and how difficult it is to teach math via Zoom. The problem I have is that teachers are being told to push on to the next chapter without ensuring their students are understanding the one they were on. My own daughters can't catch up because of this, and their teacher is not meeting them, or the rest of the class for that matter, where they are. The entire class has less than 69% average, yet she continues to move on to the next chapter. This is not going to improve math rates by any means. Now, for my favorite topic, I would also like to request that the Board of Education create a procedure for parents who want to review standardized tests for their children. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act stipulates that boards of education can create such policies to accommodate students whose parents review standardized tests on their behalf, as can principals in individual schools. Being in separate rooms while refusing the test is not only a waste of time, but it has caused our oldest daughter to miss reviews for her end of course exams and our 3 younger daughters to miss actual instruction. I am requesting a policy be created sooner rather than later, as testing season is almost upon us. Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
Now we'll move on to the clock update. Mr. Barber.
Good evening. Thank you, Vice Chair Guyer. It's good to see all of our board members this evening. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ted Barber. I am the elected chairperson of the Citizen-Led Oversight Committee. I was the one that stood there when everyone else stepped back. So therefore I was elected. I also like to introduce 3 of my fellow clock members, Mike McNally, who is here. He is the vice chair of the committee. Ray Warco, who heads up our financial team for the committee, and Rich Tischler, who is also on the finance committee with us as well. So again, welcome new board members. My presentation is up this evening. A little housekeeping items for those of you who were duly elected during our last election. Let me give you a little overview on page 1, on page 2 of our charge by Dr. Rodriguez. We as the clock are an independent group of volunteers who monitor the referendum, building projects, schedules and budgets and expenditures. We issue quarterly reports from us, the clock, and that's presented at the board of Beaufort County Board of Education. And it is also posted on the website under the construction area on the page of the website that's labeled clock. Our meetings and our minute presentations are posted once they're approved by the committee. Clock members bring a wide variety of professional experience to their task. Many of our members are CPAs, urban planners, engineers, civil engineers, and project managers.
We serve as an independent watchdog by monitoring all of the projects, the spending, and report directly to the public and to you, the Board of Education. Our committee is also subdivided into 3 subcommittees that focus on certain areas. Our Finance Committee reviews all of the financials, working with the district's department. We have a Project Review Committee that attends many and reviews many of the projects in person to check on progress. We also have a Communications Committee that works to communicate the efforts of the clock. Our mission on the next page, page 3, is that we independently monitor all building project schedules and budgets and expenditures from the Beaufort County District's November 2019 bond referendum, thereby ensuring proper use of Beaufort County taxpayer funds and superior facilities for Beaufort County students. So as a reminder, as we reach this year into 2022, that is the clock's mission. So let's move into our update. As in the past, I will talk about some of the larger fund-consuming projects first, and then I'll touch on some of the smaller projects within the district. Now, Beaufort Elementary, which is a project that consumed $20 million of the bond referendum, that school is at closeout. It was originally funded at $20,830,831. It is at paid to date at $20,777,000. We're giving that project a green light on budget and schedule. It's right on schedule and on budget. On the next page, there's a few items. It shows what was done during that, mainly safety, security, and some major renovations, technology upgrade, as well as a playground. And using our stoplight theme that we have on all of our measurements, you can see the project is green. Let's talk about Battery Creek High School. This is another large consumption project at $56,075,000 of the referendum. We paid to date is $41,934,000. You can see some of the photographs of the progress at Battery Creek High School. On page 8, just a few highlights. The schedule is green. The budget is green at this time. The previously reported delays in our last report have been turned to green now due to some of the supply chain issues, and those have been overcome. Building A, Building B, and C are all progressing, and as well as the main gym, the floor has been refinished, as well as the G2 addition, which is the ROTC and weight room, is complete. Also, Building G2, the auxiliary gym, is in inspection. Building F, which is the new art and band room, it's being demoed and is in the completion stages. Building J, which is the career technology and education wing, which has culinary arts and welding, et cetera. That's well underway. And here's a listing of all the site athletics that have been done at Battery Creek, which includes the new ticket booth and concessions and a new field house, also new site utilities, as well as a new field. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go view that as well. Let's talk about Robert Smalls International Academy. As most of you are aware, that is a replacement school for the current Robert Smalls. It is a large consumer, as you can see from the budget. It's $68,903,000. Paid to date is $33,245,000. We are running under budget right now, but our schedule is yellow, and that is due to some of the supply chain issues that we still continue to deal with post-COVID. Let's look at the detail here on the next page for Robert Smalls. We did use contingency funds for that project and from the 2019 referendum. Our yellow status is due to material shipment delays occurring with the electrical switchgear. Now, what is an electrical switchgear? It is basically the heart of the building. So without an electrical switchgear, you cannot turn the power on. And they're working diligently to get that on schedule. They have picked up some time and they continue to press forward with that and trying to get that switchgear delivered. Page 12, these are the rest of the areas in Robert Smalls that are under construction, which is the large classroom wing, the front office, as well as the cafeteria and kitchen, the site utilities, and again, that switchgear is the issue that we're dealing with. But all is going well with Robert Small except for that switchgear issue, and we'll stay on top of that. Let's talk about Hilton Head High School, one of our other large projects. That project is green right now. However, it is showing yellow because the complete design was not delivered prior to December 31st, which was requested by the district. They're working with the architect to bring that back on schedule. So we're waiting on the 100% complete design so they can move forward with the project. Also, at the December 13th board meeting, the board did approve Little Diversified Architect Consulting for the next phase of Hilton Head High School design, which many of you are aware of. All right, let's move to our project updates, what we call our medium small projects. Even though the citizens do not see bricks and mortar being laid on many schools, all of the schools are impacted and have projects underway from the bond referendum. These are mainly medium and small projects, which include safety, security improvements, technology and infrastructure improvement, playgrounds, and athletic scopes. There are 33 medium and small projects going on across the county using 85 individual project scope packages. And those are listed for you and where they are and what phase they are. There's a total of 85, as you can see. We're giving those a status of green because those are on schedule, but supply issues continue to be an issue with these small limited scope projects, but our project managers are managing those issues very closely. Let's talk about closeouts. We track all of the projects on closeouts on our next page, on page 17. This lists all the closeouts and where we are, and the closeouts are monitored closely. Many of these that are yellow are due to the facts that we're waiting on final paperwork and instructions from the contractors to close the projects out. So that is listed there for you to review on page 7 and 18. Let's talk about our financial update, which seems to be of the most concern of citizens of Beaufort County. So in summary on our financial update, all the budgeted dollars for the project equal the dollars approved by the referendum. And as of 12/31/22, appropriation amounts per projects did not change based upon the initial budget from 6/30/20. Individual budgets have been adjusted and supported by referendum contingency and bond premiums. The dollars spent and the dollars encumbered did not exceed the budgeted project total, and the dollars spent per project did not exceed the estimated project percentage complete. So what that means is we're not paying ahead of schedule. Material and construction costs continue to challenge cost control and schedule, but we consider our financial update at this time to be green. So let's look at a high-level summary of where we are with the overall bond referendum and the spending. As of 12/31, the original budget was $344,610 from the bond referendum. Bond premiums were issued at the time of the bond sales, which gave an additional $31,100,000 to increase the budget to $375,710. As of December the 31st, 22, we have paid to $323,017. And remember, we don't pay everything until the paperwork is complete from the contractors and the project has been closed out. Now, funds that remain to be committed is $52,692,000, which some of you just voted tonight to commit. Our remaining contingency in the budget at this point in time is $9,747,658. That concludes our quarterly update and our year-end update for 2022, and I will entertain any questions from the board. Mr. Smith.
On page 18, under St. Helens Elementary School, you have is that project completed, and what is that project exactly?
You're talking about the project closeouts page? Which project in particular are you talking about?
Well, there are two on there, and I see a green light on one. So
that's correct. That means St. Elementary School is closed out. The final cost of the work needs some revisions. The resubmissions have been scheduled to occur in January. That means we need some revised paperwork associated with that project.
And in terms of what?
It could be some documentation that was not turned in properly from the contractor. Many times they're required to have as-built drawings. They're also required documentation of all of the equipment, and that may not have been turned in. So therefore, they're still waiting on that documentation.
Okay, also, I was also waiting for, I guess, something to come as well, in terms of on the side of the building, they put the letters up, say Holland Elementary School, and that still looks, it doesn't look very inviting. It looks real, still, welcome to Pelican Bay. You know, the side of that building still looks like it's Pelican Bay, and I remember that I thought that there was supposed to be something forwarded where y'all did y'all get an options or some options that were going to be brought towards the board in terms of that, and I definitely said they were going to power wash it, but
let's ask Mr. Otting. Let's ask Mr. Otting.
One point of clarification, Chair. I believe this is an 8% project, and I think this is a presentation on referendum funding. So I think
that is correct. That is correct.
That needs to go to Operations Committee because they don't oversee the 8%.
We don't oversee the 8% funds.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
This is only from the referendum. And as always, as a project manager, if there are questions associated with a project at any school from any of the board members, I would suggest that you talk to the principal at that school, and you can be put in contact with the project manager that's been assigned by Mr. Otting's office, and they'll be glad to answer those questions. Many times we as the clock members, as volunteers, do not have all of that detailed information.
We'll make mention of it just because of the fact that I remember being at clock meetings and we've had this conversation prior. So being that these were actual things that we've discussed at clock meeting, then I figured that y'all were, even though y'all were tasked with one thing and y'all were opening up to other things, discussing it, that maybe y'all were oversighting those things as well.
No,
Excuse me
yeah,
for the
that's fine, Mr. Smith. We don't get into the 8% because it's enough to manage the 344 million versus
Dr. Rodriguez,
8%,
would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Mr. Barber. We have other members of the Citizen-led Oversight Committee here as well, and others that aren't with us today. But I just want to take a moment to thank them for their countless hours of volunteer work and what they are doing with respect to this work about the referendum. So we really truly appreciate it, and thank you for your dedication and your time, not only to the school district on this, but to the community most importantly.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. We're glad to serve. We were asked by you to do this, and as citizens of Beaufort County and taxpayers, we appreciate the opportunity to do this and volunteer to do this to give confidence in what the district is doing in improving the schools of Beaufort County. Even though I did not have a student that went to Beaufort County schools, I live here as a citizen, and the schools are important for the long-term growth of this county. So that's why I do this and support it as a taxpayer.
Ms. Boatright.
Thank you. You kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to say, but no, I as the outgoing former chair of the Operations Committee, we had our meetings beforehand, and I just wanted to say similarly, thank you so much for your donation of your time and your expertise. And I think that I've gone to many clock meetings because we would do them beforehand, and I think the public should be reassured about the thoroughness, the level of skill and expertise that you bring to that additional oversight to the district. And I know it's been a big commitment of time for all of you guys. So thank you very much.
Well, as I said, thank you for your comment, Ms. Boatright. And it's a pleasure. And we're glad that those of the Operations Committee, yourself, Mr. Smith, and others attend our meetings. We really enjoy you being there because it does show your support for what we do. And we really do appreciate that. As well as any of the other board members, you're welcome to attend our meetings. We always meet every month. Actually, our meeting for the month of February is tomorrow evening in this room. You're welcome to attend that meeting at any time. You're also welcome to ask questions during that meeting, and we'll be glad to try to answer them as best we can. But we thank you for allowing us to give you this update as well as the update to our public. We are doing well. We want to continue along that trend. And as always, we stand here to answer questions of the public if we need to do so. Dr. Rodriguez, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Now we go to committee reports. The academic committee is first.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Can you hear me? I have a little, I climbed up here. The academic committee met on the 7th of February. And we discussed the choice program overview of Ladies Island Elementary School, Wausau Elementary. And we also discussed the calendar next coming school year and textbooks. We're going to begin with the Ladies Island Elementary School choice program overview.
Go ahead.
Ladies Island Elementary School Leader in Me is currently operating under a 2-year grant from the South Carolina Department of Education. The request extends the Leader in Me program as a formal school choice beginning August of 2023. I'll also have Dr. Stratus come up and answer the most pertinent questions that you may have. It is a whole school transformation model and processes developed in partnership with educators that empower students the leadership and life skills they need to thrive in. Leader in Me builds highly effective practices and tools to teach leadership to every student, create a culture of student empowerment, and align systems to drive results in academics. Stratus.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon, and good evening, sir. This evening, we do have representation from our respective school. We have Jason Osborne, who is here as the acting principal for Ladies Island Elementary. They've submitted their application for this coming academic school year to be added to the choice list. And to be direct, we have 2 schools applications at this time that you will receive update information that was presented at the academic committee. So at this time, if you have any questions, board members, and I do, if it is for Jason to come forward, please, Mr. Osborne. If I may take a moment to share, I've had a great opportunity of speaking with Mr. Osborne's students at Ladies Island Elementary. He made a kind mistake of living in his society. And what I challenged the young minds was to question the revolution for education and improving the next day. I went back and forth speaking with the students in Spanish and English in the bilingual area, going back and forth. I actually pulled students to do translations. It ended up to be probably the best hour and a half I've had in a very long time. I mean that wholeheartedly. The minds were inquisitive. The students were absolutely engaged. And there was love, happiness, fun, and great thinking at the school. So I wanted to say that to say thank you, Jason, for the work you're doing, Mr. Osborne, and please come forward.
Good evening.
So if you have any questions at this time, board members, we could address, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
How long is the process? I know we have a couple of elementary schools, and maybe give us the number. So, that can go on record. If you know the number of elementary schools that already have the Leader in Me certification, and how long does it take?
So actually, I happen to have an expert in the audience, and I know I did this last board meeting. I said, let me call a friend, but our principal, Pender, who was in the audience, seriously, she knew she was going to be called out. And I mean it respectfully, because I don't want to go forward and share information. Mrs. Pender has taken her school, Coosa, who's a neighboring school, Ladies Island Elementary. So for the process itself and application, this has gone through a grant process through South Carolina. They are incurring the expense at this time. The process itself, where are you, young lady?
We are in year 9, by the way, so I'm super excited that this school is coming on board. So all 3 elementary schools on Ladies Island will now be Leader in Me schools that will filter into the middle school. So all of our students are learning the 8 habits about leadership, working together, and so forth, and synergizing. So I'm super excited that he's here with this. It depends on the school. You start year 1 and you implement what you can implement, and you implement that with fidelity. We chose to start with goal setting for our students. Now that's just an everyday practice. Everything we do is about a goal. How are we going to achieve it? How quickly we're going to achieve it? What we got to do to get there? What steps we're going to take? Then we started, each year you just keep building upon it and building upon it and building upon it. And I know he has a 3-year grant, so that is phenomenal. It's not going to cost him a penny for that. But once you get it rolling, it just takes off. It takes off. You'll start to see the leadership skills come out in the students, and they just come naturally.
I'm going to ask you to stay.
You might have been saying something.
Stay nearby. You're next. With that as well, Mrs. Middleton, to recognize that the goals are set not only for behavior, but also for academics. So Leader in Me develops not only the child for our self-regulating, but also the student to set goals academically to be high achievers.
One thing for the board, if you haven't visited a Leader in Me school, please do so. One of the opportunities, they often have, it's called a leadership day, where the students design the program and bring in parents, bring in visitors, bring in board members to come in and see and go into classrooms and see how Leader in Me is implemented. The next one that I know of is February 23rd at MC Riley. I went to that just before COVID. And if it doesn't make your heart beat faster, your heart can't beat any faster. It's really a very, very impressive program. We have Leader in Me programs at Battery Creek High School, at Robert Smalls. Coosaw was the first, and it has spread tremendously. It also includes mentors that come in from the Leader in Me program that work with teachers to give them tools on how to bring out leadership in their students, to take leadership and take ownership of their own education. It's very, very impressive, and I strongly recommend that you go down and see that in action. Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So you mentioned that it's a 3-year grant from South Carolina or the state. What is the expiration date, and is it renewable?
The grant itself is not renewable. Dr. Wisniewski, our division, Instructional Services, has provided funds in support of our LIN schools throughout the district. We continue to do that each year. So I recognize in year 4, the cost would be incurred within my division, and I recognize that when we bring this forward.
Thank you.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't other grants out there that can, we can go after to look for a way to fund it after that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to bring some clarity in, basically, what are you looking for right now? Are you looking for a motion or something like? Can we get to the meat of it so we can start from there as well?
Yes. Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education, who met on February 7th, 2020, committee did, that we approve Ladies Island Elementary School Choice Program application to take effect for the upcoming 23 and 24 academic school year, with applications starting the spring of 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Discussion, Mr. Smith?
And I would also just like to make the reference of this. I think for the board at this time, it would definitely it would just be in the interest of, since we already had the program, and also to give the actually I also seen the room, Mrs. in the back, the former principal who also used some of the resources to bring this program to the school. As a board member, I work closely with some of the principals, and she could come forward to Mrs. Coleman. And she pretty much this was her baby while she was there in the community. This was some of the work that she has been pushing in that school. And if you hadn't gone to that school, it is a very worthwhile going there. The way the students act, and at first, I'm gonna tell you, I was not on board with Leader in Me. In terms of, I've heard from employees about the work that it takes and the different, but when I went there and I actually seen them put it at work, and she said, Mr. Smith, I'm gonna need you to trust me. I said, but Ms. Coach, I'm gonna need you to trust me. And she said, just watch and just come around and see. And as we walked through the building, I was able to see it and see it from a different light from where I go to other buildings, and I see the total opposite. So I mean, and I say that just to say that kudos, because it's not costing us, but also her and Mr. Osborne has put an effective program in that school that will enrich our kids. I think this is just, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go ahead and move this forward. Thank you for that. That's it.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Colonel Guyer, you all have heard me talk a lot about culture, systems, and instruction. Culture, systems, and instruction. This is culture. It has systems in it. Right?
And it has instruction.
And it's a very integral part of delivering high quality instruction.
Any other comments? Ms. Gordon, would you like to complete your committee report?
Please have the motion.
Oh, we have a motion. Yes, we better do that. Is there any other discussion? I call the question. The motion is motion to approve Ladies Island Elementary Leader in Me Lighthouse School Choice Option. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Guyer, just to share, Ms. Coleman started the application and her dedication still to her elementary school to stay and support the acting principal. I just wanted to make kudos to that, sir. Thank you.
Stand right there, Dr. Stratus. We also have a motion. Sorry, to all the board members and our citizens out there, but I'm a little bit clogged up today. So I apologize. Also move that the Beaufort County Board of Education, our committee met on February 7th, 2023, that we approved the Coosaw Elementary project-based learning school choice program application to take effect for the upcoming 2023 through 2024 academic school year, with applications starting the spring of 2023.
Here, second. Second by Ms. Middleton. And do I have discussion and the presentation?
We can go into presentation. Should that be the purview of the board? So we do have it if necessary. May I bring the principal forward?
Yes.
Ms. Boatright.
I also want to make the point that we got a very thorough presentation academic committee too, that many of the board members attended. And so for future reference for new board members, the committees is where a lot of these presentations are given in full, and then they're kind of summarized here for motions. And the committee meetings are all available online for viewing. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, Chloe and Victor, because they're not here, but are available for viewing, I think on the county channel still, right? Or Robin can get you a copy if you have questions in advance of this meeting.
Would you like me to move forward with a presentation, or do you have questions?
Can you just give a summary of what the intent is?
Yes,
with your
sir.
Project-based learning.
Yes, sir. Project-based learning is a unit-based learning system. This is nothing new to Coosa Elementary. We're just bringing this forward in year 4. This is year 4 of us implementing unit-based learning. I think I did a thorough presentation of our numbers. We've come up a lot in the last 3 years. Just in reading alone, we've gone from 60 to 79.6% of kids meeting state standards in ELA. We're up in math to over 75%. We're up in science, 76%. We're pushing the envelope on 80% this year is our hope. Those are our projections. And we feel like we've done that through various systems, very systematic, unit-based, hands-on learning. We've taken it up a notch this year. We've purchased project-based, Project Lead the Way, which is a project-based learning units. We also have a 5-year grant through DODEA that's supporting that cost of that. So we've already purchased all those materials. We have maker spaces. We are learning all about the engineering process, just moving forward even more in depth with that, with 4 professional development sessions for our teachers a year. This is part of our 5-year renewal plan, which goes into effect next year when we're going for Cognia certification. So STEM certification, sorry. So we literally have this, we're moving into year 5 next year. We just want to solidify that we had this school-wide before bringing this forward as a school choice.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I would just like to actually make a comment in terms of, I hear what Mrs. Boatwright is saying in terms of they had this at the academic committee, but you also have people in the public who's come here and they want to understand it too, and to be rushed, I think is on our part, it comes across as in, I want to, we've already met about it, we're making a decision and we're not informing the people. I think that it comes across a little bit abrasive, or especially when someone have made a presentation and people who are coming here and not seeing it, and maybe not have it. Show a young lady read tonight about some people don't have technology. So I mean, I just think that we should be more cognizant of not wanting to be given information at meetings like this, and I understand the timing, but that's just, I just think that in all fairness, as a board member, I didn't go to the meeting, so I'm not really sure of exactly what in terms of this program extends to, and the good, the pros, and the cons of it myself, versus hearing a short version, versus being able to digest and understand and process it. And everyone learns different. So I just want to put that out to board members. That is a concern of mine moving forward.
Dr. Rodriguez.
As I understand correctly, Dr. Stratos, they have elements in place, Ms. Pender, about round project-based learning. You're looking for approval as a choice option.
Yes, I am.
So it's about approval as a choice option.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ms. Boatwright.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Smith, as well, but that is the point of the committee. And then in a business action meeting, which is what we're in, we should be summarizing. And to make the public aware, all this is publicly available. The committee meetings are publicly available. So I do think that actually we will increase parent engagement and community engagement if our meetings are concise, contained to the subject matter, appropriate questions. In my opinion, and I do believe this is also reflected in our policy manual, the point of the committees is to have the deeper dives, to ask the questions, to really get the full presentation so that we can bring it prepared to the meeting. But then I don't, at this, I mean, you're fine to respond. That's all I'm going to say on it because I want to keep going with the academic committee presentation.
Let's move on. And we have a motion on the floor. The motion is a recommended motion to approve Coosaw Elementary project-based learning school choice option. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? One abstention. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Let's go on to the next item is a motion to approve the textbook. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I have a motion that the Beaufort County Board of Education approves the proposed textbook adoption list. We met on February 7th, 2023. It was presented at the January 25th, 2023 Academic Committee meeting. You'll find that summary on page 2 of your handout, and about the textbooks for adoptions.
Like to make a motion and then we can discuss it and have a presentation.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I thought I did make the motion. I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education Academic Committee, which met on the 7th of February, that the proposed textbooks be adopted and approved. The list that was presented on January 25, 2023, the academic committee, and that list is given to you, and Dr. Stratus will go with that.
Do we have a second from Ms. Middleton? Let's go ahead with the presentation. Dr. Stratus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Cushenberry, may you pull up and we can go directly to starting at slide 4. Within board members, within your handouts, you have the presentation as put forward, the opportunity to see the listing of books. We'll start on slide 4, respectively. With me this evening, I have Karen McKinsey, our Director for Secondary Teaching and Learning, as well as Karen Gilbert, our Director for Career Technical Education. Both of these directors have worked diligently with schools, following the state required process, as well as our administrative regulation process with our schools for the books that will be brought forward to you for your review. At the secondary level, anatomy and physiology, astronomy, earth science, environmental science, advanced placement, science, physical education, sociology, U.S. government and advanced placement, U.S. history and constitution and advanced placement. With that, we'll move forward. Mrs. McKenzie, do you have any questions regarding the secondary books?
Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My question is on the secondary books or any of the textbooks that we're talking about today. Are they uniform textbooks across all school sites? So for example, the anatomy and physiology book that is offered at Beaufort High School, is that the same textbook that will be at Bluffton High School, or is there differences?
Our district administration regulation allows for each school to have a voice in selecting an adopted text for Beaufort County. So each school gets to vote. Teachers sign a verification form. That form comes back. That becomes the Beaufort County text.
Okay, so
For clarity,
Yeah, thank you.
the answer to her question is yes. There's one textbook for Beaufort County.
yeah, the part that said the school sites had input. So that's what drew the question.
Yeah.
One book. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Wisniewski, that is the absolute. It is a single book from school to school.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I don't have a question on that. I have a question on history.
Mr. Yeah.
On U.S. history and even state history. And my concern is that the state need to look at the history book. And I've said this over and over again. Because the history book is not telling the truth, period. And all you have to do, you can Google and find out what I'm talking about. We don't talk about the contribution that African Americans have played in this state at all. Even in the U.S. history, we don't. And I have a list at the house. I'm gonna type it up and bring it and show you what I'm talking about. Because you know, things that if young people knew all this stuff that I'm talking about,
Units.
I don't think we would have the problems in this country that we have today. I know, you know, that's just, I would hope that somebody would sit down and talk to the state about this. Thank you.
Dr. Wisniewski.
Let it go.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I was going to add a comment to that because I was concerned. You've brought that up a number of times at meetings before, Mr. Campbell. So I was concerned when I did see the U.S. government and U.S. history and constitution books for AP. I wanted to look into the author and the content and the table of contents. Now I was limited in what I could actually read because it's copyright material and costs $144 per book. But I would like to encourage, you know, the ISD department to maybe provide a copy of what that is to board members that are interested, because I dug into it and I was rather impressed with the author and his accolades and the things that were included in the text. So I was comfortable putting my seal of approval on these, but just a suggestion in the future, since that has been a concern. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So just two quick items. One is that there is a review process. So it starts at Columbia and they call it the caravan, the book caravan that does land here in Beaufort County. So that review process is available. I do want to also build going forward, subject to actually our board members, the profile of a Beaufort graduate, that some of the gaps in history are being addressed within units that are being developed by educators within our own school system. I do want to bring that forward as well.
Dr. Stratos, when the caravan comes to Beaufort, they're housed at USCB
They have been, yes.
for review, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's open to the public, right?
Yes, sir. It's open to the public. We do make a public announcement. And they've also conducted electronic reviews, but we do post that information, sir.
Are we ready to move on to career and technical education? Well, is this?
We've combined them all
These
into
are
one.
combined. These are combined.
Yeah, they are combined.
Yes.
The textbook, yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So with that, we have career technical education for the middle school. We have fundamental of healthcare at the high schools, advanced baking and pastry, digital media marketing, digital multimedia, digital workplace applications, event and entertainment management, image editing. And if you go to the following slides, it will give you the titles as well as the publishers. With that, I have Mrs. Gilbert. Do they have any questions?
Go ahead,
Yes,
Ms.
do you have any questions, board members?
Mr. Smith?
Actually, my question go back to this, in this motion, are these books that we're approving, are these hardback books or what does that look like?
That's a great question, Mr. Smith. They are a combination. They can be, many of our teachers prefer the ebook version, but when it's adopted, so it's the printed copy, then the ebook that comes along with it, as well as any of the instructional materials, PowerPoints, lesson plans that come with the particular vendor.
And if I may, Mr. Smith, we are held by legislation as well. So as a teacher may prefer an ebook, we are held by legislation to have hard copy as well.
Thank you. That is very important in the new age and millennium. I asked one of my cousins the other day, I said, well, where your books at? He said, well, everything's on a computer, and it's just concerning that, he had to go look some stuff up. He had some words and he's like, he's like, I can just Google it. I said, see, while I was coming up, we had something called a dictionary that you actually took the time to. He said, what's that? So you got this thing that is very important also to be able to have these books and be able to say these kids are still learning and, they're not always worrying, they are not always on worrying about technology. And if technology ever fails, then where do they go? So that's just, that's very, very important that we do have those hard books as well. Thank you.
Are there any other books to discuss on this motion? Hearing none?
No, I thought the question was to the board, sir, so I do apologize. No, sir, those were the two combinations.
I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of this motion to approve, recommended motion to approve a textbook edition, which is the motion. I move that Beaufort County Board of Education on February 7th, 2023 approves the proposed textbook adoption list as presented at the January 25th, 2023 Academic Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, board member.
Thank you.
The next item, Ms. Gordon, is the proposed motion to approve the academic school year 2023-2024.
Yes, we had 3 different calendars that were presented to us, and Dr. Stratus will, she will review that for us. They are in your packet, and we'll have to vote on one of those, maybe.
Mrs. Cushenberry, if you may please pull up the presentation. Thank you. At the academic committee, we reviewed 3 calendars, proposed calendars. Board members, you should have a presentation. You should also have the administrative regulation. The reason you're going to see highlighting, I've highlighted the administrative regulation to cite what is in the presentation. So respectfully, the yellow will be the school calendar requirements. As we go to the next slide, green would be the makeup days requirements. Blue will identify the calendar requirements, and that should be within your administrative regulation. Our administrative regulation is also built off of our state law 59-1.25. And at this time, I'd like the opportunity to go to slide 9 to just give a quick overview of the process. In early November, calendar drafts were created through committees. November and December, we went from committees to division input. In early January, we had school site administrative meetings as well as teacher meetings and input. January 2023, we presented to the academic committee, which was on the 25th of January. And at this time on February 7th, we'll go forward with the 3 recommended calendars to bring forward to the board. On slide 10, you should also have a hard copy for your review. I was hoping that you would have a large copy to make it easier for you to look at. If you could please look at the first calendar that would identify. There will be a hard copy as what I have in my hand. I want to quickly go through the key on the hard copy. Blue identifies a folder of instruction. Red identifies no student contact. The yellow star generally indicates a start of a marking period. We'll see a triangle that identifies a half day. By state legislation, we are allowed to have 3 half days. We are allowed to have 180 academic school days and professional development days. Of those 10 professional development days, if you look at this first calendar, starting on August 14th, these are teacher work days. By state legislation, teachers are to have no more than 2 days within their classroom. The other 3 days are to be for PD. 2 of those PD days are to be a school site. 1 of those PD days is to be district. If you see the 21st of August, that is the first student contact day. As we look at September, we have a holiday, and that first marking period, as we look into October, will end on October 18th. The month of November provides 2 holidays in the first week. That is for Election Day as well as for Veterans Day. We recognize on this calendar that we will have Election Day will be off. We felt that Election Day is to be a day off, subject to security for our schools and being able to maintain the momentum of instruction. We also note that Veterans Day is on that Saturday. We do want to give that opportunity for our veterans to have a day off. December 22nd is the end of first semester. It is a half day. And you will see that the winter holiday starts at that weekend, continues through the first week of January. If we could please note on the 3rd of January, that is identified as a winter makeup day. If not used, it is a day off. The following 2 days will be professional development days, no student contact. Students would then report to school on January 8th. There's a professional development day in the month of February as well. That should be our 3rd African American Conference. We have our 2nd African American Conference actually starting this week, which is a professional development day. It starts on Friday the 10th. We'd like to continue that model in all calendars that we propose to the board. If we look at March 28th is identified as a weather makeup day. The 29th is Good Friday. On this calendar, if you look at April 8th, that is actually a solar eclipse day. It has been identified as a potential weather makeup day. If we think back to about 3 years ago, it was a significant issue, especially with the little students. Ready? Starts at dismissal. So there's responsibility that was taken into this consideration. It actually came from our teachers. And we'll see that spring break starts on April 15th. And the last quarter starts on April 22nd. If I may take you into June, so you'll see the last student contact day would be June 3rd. Professional development days for the closing out of the academic school year would be the 4th and 5th of June. And June 19th would also be a holiday. That is the 84-96 split alpha A. If we pull up alpha B, same date distributions. And I do want to pause as I go forward because I do recognize the board. We've had good discussion on having a clean split 90-90. We have taken the position of starting the school year following the legislation for this coming calendar year for a few reasons. One of the most important is that our construction at our schools. That is a significant issue. We want to be able to start our schools on time. And there is a significant amount of referendum work and 8% work being conducted this summer. On this calendar, you'll notice we start on the 16th for professional development. And the calendar is very much the same as Alpha A with a few exceptions. There are 2 weather makeup days identified in January. And if I may advance you quickly into the month of April, this came from educators as well, seeking to ask for the Monday after Easter, the weather makeup day. The provision for the 8th to be another day of PD, potentially a weather makeup day. And one too many on this. No, I'm good. Just making sure. To have a day off, no student contact, subject to the solar eclipse. And having 3 PD days at the end of the academic school year, looking at June 10th, 11th, and 12th. This calendar pushes the close of the academic school year a few more days into June. And I just described the 90-90. I was off. I apologize. You're so polite. You let me keep going, Miss Robin. Thank you. If I can just reiterate on Alpha B. Weather makeup day again is in January 5th. I have 2 weather makeup days in April. And the close of the calendar is for student contact is June 5th. My last option is the 90-90 split. Thank you. That does have the 3 professional development days in August. As I already had shared, the 4th and 5th of January weather makeup days. I want you to please note that second semester would start in January once the school year already starts rolling. And again, this calendar takes us deeper into the academic school year into the month of June. Those were the 3 options. I believe they're also on your PowerPoint. And the reason I bring it full to the board, at academic committee, we did not land on a recommendation.
So today you want us to decide which of the 3 that we choose. Is that correct?
That would be a yes, sir.
And Dr. Rodriguez, do you have a recommendation of which calendar?
I think generally the preference is typically to land to finish a semester before the holiday and have a clean start when you have the other. As we move into future years, I think we're going to see more flexibility because we are looking at modified calendars in future years, impacted this year by the summer. That doesn't allow us to really do that this year. And in the summertime we need this year. However, as we move forward, that's what it would be. So really, I think A and B are the ones that land and end the semester typically right in December. Is that correct, Dr. Stratos?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
May I share, Vice Chair? So from each committee, overwhelmingly, the recommendation was Alpha B of the 8496. And if I may share the why. The why was it first provides, when you look at December and January, full 2 weeks off. That was overwhelmingly requested by the educators. They liked it a lot this current year, and they felt it would be nice to have that again. The second was when I shared the commentary as Dr. Rodriguez did is just now, by not going too far into the month of June, it allows us to do the work and potentially looking at a modified calendar for the upcoming school year. The other item that they also enjoyed was the flexibility of the PD days throughout the calendar. They enjoyed that this academic school year greatly. And if I could take you into the month of January on the 8496B version, you have 2 PD days, one on the 8th, the other is on the 9th. One would be a school site, one is a district site. It helped a lot at the start of the academic school years. Many schools held PLCs to get ready for the upcoming semester. So I just wanted to share that commentary. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have first Dr. Wisniewski, then Ms. Boatwright, then Mr. Smith. Okay, but first with Dr. Wisniewski.
I was just going to go ahead and get the ball rolling and make a motion. So I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education approves the 2023-24 academic school calendar 8496 split A option.
Second.
It's been moved.
I got it, Carlton. You're at home. You don't get to second over me.
Oh, okay, all right.
You got to be in person to get that.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Wisniewski, seconded by Ms. Boatwright. So it's now open for discussion.
Can I go ahead and?
Pardon me? Yeah, you got the right.
Sure, Alpha A.
Alpha A.
So, and just to be clear, Alpha A is the one that does not have the extra days in January, right? It starts earlier in January. I just want to make sure I'm correct, because I'll just tell you, I'm opposed to the one that goes later into January, into June.
To June.
Because where it's most impactful for students and parents is there's 2. One, if you're taking an AP or an IB class, those tests this year, the first AP test, I think, is May 2nd, and the first IB test is April 28th.
Mhm.
So every day we cut out of January is a significant learning time. We're already up against a wall. So that's number one. Number two, as a parent, oftentimes summer camps, college vacations for SEC schools, et cetera, occur at the end of May. So parents, having to go in, there's a lot of summer camp opportunities that Beaufort County School Districts, if we went that full week of June and into the next one, that would be a hindrance. So as a parent as an IB student, I prefer the one, and I'm thinking that's A, right? I'm all on the same page. Okay. That is the one that I strongly support.
Other questions, other discussion? Ms. Gordon.
I'm looking at the end date for the 8490, Dr. Stratus.
For the 8496 or
8496. Okay, split A. And I think they all relatively do the same thing, that the Christmas break or spring break, Christmas break ends December 22nd.
At dismissal, should a principal?
it's a half day.
Yes, ma'am. It is a half day. Teachers are to be contractually on campus.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But Christmas, the break starts on the 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a concern for parents and for students, and also for some of our teachers who may not be from Beaufort for traveling time, but we also have families who have custody issues, that they have to have their children by a certain time and things of this nature. And so I'm looking at possibly you're going to have some children not in school 19, 20, 21 December because of that. So, and that's right at Christmas. You give parents a day to travel or to make plans for their holidays. Was that not into consideration? And I know we have teachers who are not from Beaufort that travel to Ohio, Indiana. That's not, to me, enough time in thinking of parents in their situations, what they have to go through to get ready for this particular break, because they're going to be looking at this calendar, making plans and trying to make it work. Is that what we want?
Vice Chairman, I bring forward.
Dr. Rodriguez.
So,
And Dr. Stratos, you can follow up on this. I think one of the challenges with this particular year's calendar is we are boxed in by how early we can start.
third week.
Right? Which limits our days in that first semester. And then I think the other thing is just sort of how it lands this year with 25th being on a Monday, I believe. Yeah, with 25th being on a Monday. Oftentimes, I think sometimes you can land it where the 19th is a Friday and then you have a couple of days prior to the 25th. But I think the way this particular year lands, the 25th is there and we're boxed in by how early we're allowed to start. So I think that's the challenge. Anything else you want to add, Dr. Stroud?
Well, to troubleshoot the question, we're held by legislation that we cannot start earlier than the third Monday of August. So if you took a look at the months of August, September, October, November, and December, and look at the days off, in order to shift earlier, we have to give up a day off. And that is where is the discussion with the board is, right? These recommendations came from the educators. They did review it, and part of it was the timeliness of knowing well enough in advance to make appropriate arrangements. If we look at the month of November, we've already cut down the Thanksgiving holiday. We're recognizing Election Day and providing the recognition for Veterans Day. So there's not a lot of flexibility at time to meet all the boxes and still recognize what Mrs. Gordon has brought forward. We'd have to give something up in order to shift up a day.
Their comments, questions? Ms. Boatright?
The graduation dates are not on this calendar. Are we going to approve those separately?
They would be separate because it's one stipulation as a board. You have to recognize that potentially one of the graduation dates would start with recommendation. Let's look at Alpha A, not the 86 split. Let's look at the month of June. We recognize we would have the third. We would be able to have graduation starting on the 3rd. The board has to approve that the 4th, which is generally the first Tuesday of each month, is a board meeting. You have to make the stipulation of agreeing that you will have graduation in lieu of your board meeting.
So moved. Is that right now?
I can't say that, but I can only advise you to what is written in the legislation.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment.
But graduation would have been that week happening. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment. I'm a veteran. Veterans Day occurs on the 11th of November.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I can understand we give Veterans Day off during the week because we have parades, we have ceremonies at the cemetery. But this year, the parade will be probably on the 11th. The ceremonies at the cemeteries will be on the 11th. So just, and I have other veterans on the board here that I can ask their opinion, but in my opinion, because this year is a unique year for loss of flexibility in the front, if we could celebrate Veterans Day on the 11th and have the 10th be a school day and give that day
shift
to December and to give them an extra day would be acceptable for me, but I'd like to hear from my other veterans on the board and what you all think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say that the Marine Corps' birthday is on November 10th, so I'm going to have it off. But other than that, I agree with you. I mean, all the events that surround Veterans Day are going to be on Saturday. All the parade's going to be on Saturday. How late does voting polls stay open? Do we need to have 7th off? 7.
7
Can we have a half day on the 7th so that our teachers can vote?
So if I move a half day, here's the conundrum, sir. The predominant amount of elementary schools like to have parent conferences on the close of a quarter. So if I took their half day, which would create a different ripple because parents are used to that as well, I would lose the parent conference opportunity. If I shifted the one at the end of the day, at the end of the academic school year that we have in June, I could still design our graduation to meet within that week, recognizing we would have a new I was going to work to have 2 graduations on the 3rd. I feel I'm getting closer. And I would require to have 2 graduations a day, but sir?
I would like to run on election day. A lot of our facilities are used as election sites. And so that's one of the main reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the calls we get quite often from parents is particularly younger ones.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the elementary, that was why that was reserved.
Can we have Mr. Campbell, a veteran issue?
I don't know. I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
With
I think go ahead, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. I agree with you about the 11th of November. Most of our events about our veterans will probably be on that day because November 11th is the day. So I'm in agreement to give that 10th, if we can, to the December exit date, because having been a teacher in our school district and also a parent, and also seeing what the parents go through that week, we're making plans to leave to go to New York, Alabama, doesn't matter, but they need travel time, but their kids are in school. And so, you can't take the kids out, but then they do because they need to travel and kids don't get to say. So anytime that we can give to help them, and I think we have students sitting out there who say, yeah, but I agree. If we can agree to do that, that would be great, because the schools are still going to celebrate probably on the 10th, for celebration for veterans at their schools. So we're not going to not celebrate, but at least if we can give them some time off. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
No, I was going to say exactly what Mr. Ogden was saying, that we use a lot of our facilities, and also some of our staff members also work the actual voting polls as well. Some of them who take that day off, they actually work that day as well. So that's something else too that would not work for that half day.
So do we need an amendment to the motion?
Technically, whoever made the motion can alter the motion.
Would you be willing to do that?
School day.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to amend the motion to take the November 10th no school day to be a school day and allocate a full school or that day off to December, end of December.
Can we help with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I think what we're trying to accomplish here is going to be the 10th becomes a regular school day.
Yeah.
The 22nd is a day off. And the 21st will be a half day.
Yes.
We're all together on that?
Correct.
Okay.
And so that's how the motion will be developed when you get to it.
You want me to say it slowly?
Let me write it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. Yes, ma'am.
We'll be off.
Correct.
That's what called the question. Oh,
My finger over here.
yeah, okay.
And I hear what everyone's saying. I'm from Seattle, so I'm always fighting this, and we just rarely travel during the holidays because usually the 22nd is an incredibly busy travel day. But in general, I don't have a strong dog in this fight. But I am going to oppose the amendment. And the reason is I don't think we're buying that much on the vacation time. I understand the 25th is a Monday. I think that to me, when we give a day off, it feels more like we're acknowledging the holiday as opposed to taking a day off. And I think that was sort of the intent of Veterans Day, Labor Day, Martin Luther King Day, was to acknowledge the importance of these entities to the school district. So while if you guys want to do that, be fine for me. I don't think I was going to tell Miss Gordon that unfortunately a lot of parents, if they have to travel, will just the school with that week kind of winds down a little on the early side. I shouldn't say that, but at least at the high school level, kids can leave early once if they're done. It's like a makeup test day type of thing. So anyways, like I said, I don't have a strong opinion. I'm not going to make some big case for it, but I'm going to oppose this amendment.
Right. Hearing Dr. Wisniewski.
I just wanted to make an ask of Superintendent Rodriguez that on the 10th, we do recognize Veterans Day and do a program. I know that's probably already at the forefront of your mind with the military community we have here, but just want to make sure that we
work very hard to honor our servicemen. As you know, we're a military Purple Star District designation that we earn. In addition, here in our building, I always do something here in our building, and I know our school sites recognize as well, but we will be emphatic about it for sure.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And any abstentions? So we have 9-1-1. Or no extent. 9-1. All right, now I think we're ready for the full motion. That takes care of it. Okay. So we're done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just a note to mention as we tackle additional calendars with the modified calendar look in the future as we look at that as well. There are other dates that could be dates off that I think certain segments of our community inquire about and ask for from time to time. So as we look at the next calendar, the next time around, you may see some of that.
Okay. I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. The next item on the agenda is the Legislative Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislative Committee meeting on the 2nd February. And we discussed some issues that Senate and the House is proposing this year. And the first one was proposing that school board members' election be held during the presidential election. What that means is that you could probably have a completely new board come in that doesn't have any idea of what has been going on within the district. But my other concern is that could cause problem because you get a completely new board and they can get rid of the superintendent. So those are most issues that I'm concerned about. Other board member?
Yeah, we went over quite a number of bills, but with this one, my concerns somewhat mirrored Mr. Campbell's, although I do recognize that when it is held during those years that you do have greater voter participation and then therefore more engaged populace and constituency, that maybe will pay attention to the school board races more. So I think that there's positive and negatives. I don't know if we came to a conclusion on what stance we had with this one, but.
Gordon?
No, I agree with Mr. Campbell. There are some factions in here that really concerns me. And number one being, we could possibly end up with a whole new board and or what the agenda may or may not be. My experience now as a new board member is that I know nothing. And we need, our seasoned board members to get us through and make sure that the projects that are on hand, that we continue in the right path and with the superintendent. So I agree with Mr. Campbell. That is a concern if we do the broader election day. And I do know more people will come on and vote probably during that kind of election, which is good as well. So it is a double-edged sword.
I'll just say I agree with all my colleagues. And my point of it is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And right now, I don't see where it's broken. So unless someone have as in the state legislators, unless they have a personal agenda or reason why they would like for that to change, and I would definitely like for them to bring that forward, so we all can be in line and understand what's the movement and why they're pushing that, and particularly. Thank you, because that does bring me a great bit of concern. Thank you.
Any other comments on that top? Do you have other topics?
What I would recommend is that we discuss this as a board and send our recommendation to our lobbyists.
You want to make a motion?
Okay, I make a motion that you refer this to the whole board before we make a decision. Before the committee make a decision.
I'll second. And I just had a question. Is that for all of them or just for Senate Bill 244?
That's for all of them.
All of them? Okay.
Yes. You want to go over to the next one?
Yeah, sure. So that was the one we just talked about was Senate Bill 244. The sponsor is Senator Kimbrell. And then I think the next one in our packet is House Bill 3318 by Representative King. And this one has to do with audits of school districts. Okay. So I remember the concern with this one is not necessarily the concept of an audit, because we've had clean financial audits, multiples of them. But the concern was that it can be called upon by 2 members or more of the Board of Trustees that governs the district. And we have an 11-member board. So in looking at the percentage of the board that would be required to call for that, I thought that was pretty low compared to other school districts in the state that might have 6 members. So that represents a third of their makeup. So that was my main concern with that bill. I don't know if anybody else had any comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As I understood it, one audit can only take place every 3 years. So even if 2 board members decide to go rogue and call an audit, we can only do that once every 3 years, right?
I believe so, as it's written. I'm no expert on the bill, but that's my understanding.
Yeah,
Yes, it's every 3 years.
if I could weigh in, I think there's a drift towards a very chaotic way of running some real institutional organizations in our community that are very valuable to us. Continuity is very important, and I look at the demarcation between the Senate and the U.S. House. The House is full of passion, immediacy, and the Senate is much more methodical in its thinking, and the balance of the two has worked pretty doggone well for our country, particularly if it's only 2 people that can create an audit. I know we have some members in our community who are constantly threatening or suggesting that there need to be forensic audits when we already have audits that are completed by reputable large accounting firms. So I think we probably want to try to ameliorate some of the intense passion to do things immediately and let them play out over time, because that indicates that there's a substantial amount of support for an idea over the long term. And then it changes. So I would be cautious about both of these bills, potential bills.
Are there other bills?
Senate Bill 33-4, sponsor is Senator Campson from our area. And this one is in regard to vacancies and the process by which chairman, and they call it a clerk of the Board of Trustees. So I'm not really sure what the mirror of that would be for us. But it's a process by which to deal with vacancies. And the conversation that took place in legislative committee was that we already have a process under our board policies. So we just need to keep an eye on this one to make sure it doesn't conflict with any of our present policies in the future.
They had House Bill 3485 enacting family rights.
And so I think the general consensus was that the committee was in favor of the House Bill 3485.
Right.
Okay.
Was in favor or was not in favor?
Was
Was.
affirmative in favor.
And could you go back, because I didn't have a chance to look at this one. Can someone summarize this?
Yeah, briefly, this is the one that's known as, I believe they're calling it the Families Rights and Responsibilities Act. My general understanding of it is that it mirrors a similar bill in the state of Florida. It's rather lengthy. But the general consensus amongst the three committee members was that it was a solid bill.
So what does it do differently?
It's pretty long, Mr. Dallas. So I would not venture to summarize for everybody. I know that it has been getting some media attention. And there have been some synopsis videos posted on social media. I can certainly forward one to you. But I wouldn't venture to summarize this entire bill.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Nay.
All it does is codify the parents' involvement in the students' upbringing, and codifies all the aspects of the education and where the school touches the child's education.
Okay. There any other bills?
Those
you
are the
discussed?
ones that we just talked about.
Those are the ones that
Yes.
put on? Okay. Do you need any further action?
Yes, we go for the whole board to discuss this.
Okay.
And we can make a decision.
Do we do that? Do we do that at another time when we have more or a special work session perhaps?
Yeah, a work session. All
Yeah,
right.
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay. All right. Can we move along?
Yes, we got a motion on the floor.
Pardon me?
We have a motion.
Yeah, but yeah, we do have a motion on the floor. That's correct. Can we read the motion? Motion for the full board to discuss and send recommendations to the lobbyist at a future work session.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we have it there. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries unanimously.
Our next meeting is the 27th of this month. We will be talking to the lobbyists also.
Okay.
And one more thing, at that meeting, I would encourage other board members to please come and participate because we will be going over the legislative priorities.
Right.
There's a copy of it in board docs. This last time was updated in 2020, and we did discuss some general changes to it at our last meeting. So, yeah.
Okay. Does that complete your report, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, instructional support tutoring.
Thank you. This evening, under student achievement in the superintendent's report, we're going to just share a little bit of information. Should be a brief presentation and summary to you of the instructional support tutoring. And essentially what we've done is design a method for our schools in order to really target specific needs where we see individual students needing additional support on specific aspects of the standards and instruction. And so Dr. Stratos and her team have done a great job building this. And so Dr. Stratos.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez and board members. Good evening, Madam Chair. And I want to be brief on this because it'll be fully presented at our meeting tomorrow with principals. I wanted to bring this forward to you. This evening, I'm going to share brief information that will be part of our February 8th principal meeting. Members within the instructional division, specifically Brett Fritz, who brought an idea to light, has developed a database for use by principals that is a repository of multiple data points. The database brings together math and reading data points from SC Ready, MAP, iReady for our students in grades 3 through 8. I'd like to share that this database initiative will extend into the secondary level. This has been first started from a draft, sharing it to Brett, what I was looking for, and this young man took it to life. What it will do is take multiple data points from these skills that are taught or that are assessed within each assessment. And I'll give you a quick idea. Assess projected proficiency, gives you a percentile rating in math and reading. It assesses algebraic thinking and operations, data analysis, statistics and probability, geometry, measurement and data analysis, number sense and operations, and real complex number systems. I know it sounds like a lot, but those are all aligned to our state standards that fall beneath them. I do want to share that our next stage in this database will be aligning our status to these, our standards to these data points. SC Ready measures the same items as MAP with additional components, functions, percents, fractions, sense operations and predictions, ratios, proportion relationships, where iReady provides overall relative placement. Are you at your grade level? It does the same as percentile. And provides algebraic thinking, geometry, measurement and data, and number operations. So let me give you an idea. If I'm looking at students from SC Ready who are either at does not meets or approaches, so we recognize, and I want to know where these students are mathematically, the data points will help the schools identify tutoring groups for students specifically. And it is designed to go by gender and subgroup. Obviously, it is designed by grade level. And we have been able to pull data for the past 3 years and create this alignment so that we're going to release this tomorrow to the principals. They'll have it in reading and in math, and they're going to actually go through a whole process of working with pivot tables, working with the Excel spreadsheets. And we worked first yesterday with the executive directors. We shared this information. So now they know within their portfolio pointed students in the areas of academic need. And they could be our area of addressing their accountability component. So when they meet with you, a principal, where are you at this point with moving your students? Is there something like that, sir?
Yeah, I think what I would just add is they're going to be able to quickly analyze say here's a group of students that are at approaches within their school, and these are the specific content cluster areas like informational based text and making meaning out of informational based text, and you can say okay, these 7 are doing pretty well here, but these 6 need additional support in this area, because you'll have various data points that are compiling to point you in that direction. So I can have a tutoring group for these particular group of kids to really hone in and hit home on, rather than just sort of a wide approach. I can target right into what is the area and be more efficient about that delivery of tutoring support for kids. So that's the idea. Not just tutoring, but regular classroom instruction throughout the.
For small group instruction as well.
Mr. Nate?
Thank you, Mr. I managed a database for a few years. So first of all, who created the database?
Brett Fritz is our director for data services.
Okay. And is there a legacy plan for the database? Because they like databases require maintenance and they require somebody who loves them and is willing to update them and maintain them. And so like, okay, this is a great concept, but what's its legacy? Is it going to last until Mr. Fritz leaves and then we're not using it anymore, or what?
May I? So excellent question. So we are seeking to have an additional personnel that we realign some resources. And with the realignment of resources, we have backup personnel. So I would hope not, we have additional personnel building their capacity. So we don't have what I call the Wizard of Oz syndrome. What happened when the wizard left, it fell apart. We don't want that. We want that sustainability. So that has been aligned with our personnel. And that position has been advertised as one of their requirements in that job as well, sir. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. What's the maximum size of group? When do you decide to break it down into as you did it, or you just have to do it to the whole class?
No, you don't have to do it to the whole class. Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're looking at a particular class, right? The first thing I would tell you is if it's showing me that, then that's an opportunity for reteaching because they all need it, right? So there's a great opportunity for reteaching. But secondly, if I see that it's just a handful within my class, right, I can pull for either small group instruction during my instructional block for that, or if we're targeting for tutoring on a school-wide basis, right, we can do that. We can pick and say, hey, we're going to take, we got 20 kids that need this, right? We can do groups of 10, 2 groups of 10, or we can do 4 groups of 5. And that's the approach, right? So they can customize that. I wouldn't want to see a group of 30 unless it means, we've got to do reteaching for a whole class on this content, on this topic. Then you reteach and you can still break out for tutoring.
Mr. Smith.
And well, the first question is, who will be teaching this group?
Teachers themselves as well as our interventionists. So we actually have the capability of taking the groups into Power School. We could drop in design schedules in Power School for interventionists. So we have personnel already set up that is within the school.
We can also provide our extended learning site with some of this information to target specific needs for kids. So, the main point of this presentation is really to share with all of you that we have developed this instrument or this data collection piece that we can use to specifically target specific needs. Now, we can use it various ways, and so our extended learning partners is an opportunity to capitalize on that and share with them what the students that are coming to their sites need additional support.
And that was my second question. How are we going to utilize this tool to communicate with the after school learning site? So because I know that some of them actually do work on different various areas that they see that individual kids need help on. So that was one of my questions.
May I, sir? So, Mr. Smith, the extended learning, the opportunity, I know you does have data sharing. That was part of the understanding. The other part of that as well is that we have hired personnel in replace from Scannell Danzler, who's very proficient in our softwares that we provided the district. So that she's going to be very familiar with this for implementation and share that information.
And my last question is this, if I may. My last question is, have we thought about using coaches and and the tutoring being that they already have different time. I mean,
We will use any and all resources available to us in terms of human personnel and human capital to effectively try to deliver the best possible intervention and instruction and tutoring service to any of our students. So all hands on deck. Everybody's available. If you have a specific specialty, I may draft you too.
that sounds good, but I definitely want to mention coaches because I know that they're in the building and that they're supposed to be the best in their business of what they do. So so a lot of people have asked me, about those coaches and how we're utilizing them, and I just want to see this is another alley that we can use them in as well, or another way. Excuse me. Thank you.
Think we can move along?
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is board business action.
Mr.
And-
Vice Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Ms. Middleton, please go ahead.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move that the Beaufort County Board of Education on February 7th, 2023 concurs with the findings of the January 19th, 2023 Book Review Committee findings of the following book titles: Crank, author Ellen Hopkins; Glass, author Ellen Hopkins; Go Ask Alice, author anonymous; Impulse, author Ellen Hopkins; Looking for Alaska, author John Green; Milk and Honey, author Ruby Carr; The Freedom Writer's Diary, author The Freedom Writers with Aaron Gruwell; The Poet X, author Elizabeth Acevedo; 13 Reasons Why, author Jay Asher.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Other discussion? Dr. Wisniewski?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I'm curious about, we had discussion about the opt-out form, and I'm curious about the status of that.
Dr. Wisniewski, the opt-out form was reviewed in detail this morning. Points are being addressed to that. Recommendation is to the superintendent this afternoon with regard to looking forward to a work session to bring more updates and documents to the board, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have some concerns about the language of the motion in the sense that of concurring with the findings, because that's what I don't think that's what we're doing. What we're doing is we're saying the process was properly followed, which is really what the board has been tasked to do. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with what they found. We established a committee in alliance with state policy. They performed their duties. I see no reason to overturn it, but I think using the term concur with the findings is not what I would use.
You have a recommendation of what you would use?
Yeah, let me think. Can I think about it for a hot second? Let's see. I mean, I just basically wanted to say, I move the Board of Education on February 7, 2023 finds no reason to overturn the findings of the January 19, 2023 Book Review Committee.
Is that acceptable?
It works for me.
Yeah, that's my amendment.
Okay.
And can I make one more comment? It's because I don't want to inject whether we agree or disagree into this procedure. I just want to follow the policy, and I'm pleased to let the community have the opportunity to review the books. And I feel like the board's sole role in this policy, and I know this is my opinion, is to make sure that the policy was followed correctly. So it's not a statement of agreement or disagreement.
As soon as we get it, put it up on the board, we'll open it up for board discussion. Dr. Wisniewski.
I'll be voting down on the amendment simply because two reasons. I think it pretty much says the same thing. And I would like to see consistency by the board. And I went back and looked at the language from the January 17th meeting, and it was consistent with the first meeting's ruling. So I'd like to see consistency. So I'll be voting down on this amendment.
I agree. I reviewed the last amendment and concur was in there. Same thing, just the changing of the date.
Other comments?
And I just think it's important that we recognize the role of the board in this process, that we're not being asked whether or not we agree with the decision, which to me is what the term concur with the findings. I think there is a difference between concur with the findings. It implies that the board is coming in and saying to the community, we agree or disagree, and we could disagree. We could not concur with the findings at some point, right? I don't think that's what we're being tasked to do. I think it's important that the board recognize that we are overseeing a policy that we don't actually own ourselves. We are not legally required to look over library materials. There is a OE that brushes by a term under instructional policies. So for me, I would like to keep the board very much out of the library process. And that's why I didn't catch it on the first time, because there was a lot of other stuff going on. But after we had the conversations, to me, it's important to recognize that the board has a very limited role in this process.
Dr. Wisniewski.
Oh, you know me. I pull up the policies and the ARs. So looking at the AR in regard to the appeals process and what our role is, the last sentence of Roman numeral 8 says, after reviewing the committee's report on the material in question, the Board of Education will make a determination regarding the material in question. And then it gives us 15 days effective from the date the appeal is requested. So my understanding and my reading of this is that we are making a determination regarding the material itself, not the process.
Anybody else like to speak on this amendment?
I would just weigh in that I think both the concur and the has no reason to overturn contain enough ambiguity that they still comply with the overall intent of the policy. And I think there's some consistency, even though the words are slightly different.
Any other comments? And are we ready to vote on the amendment?
Yes.
We have a second. Ms. Gordon seconded. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? And the amendment reads. The amendment reads, I move the Beaufort County. What happened? Okay, we'll try it again. Amended motion. I move the Beaufort County Board of Education on February 7th, 2023 has no reason to overturn the findings of the January 19th, 2023 Book Review Committee findings of the following book titles, and I'll leave the as written. All those in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this amendment signify by saying nay. Nay.
Nay.
That ever. Okay. All those that abstain? 2 abstentions. Mr. Nay. Motion fails 2-6-2-0. So now we'll go back to the original motion. Well, we'll have discussion. That's the original motion. Are there any discussion on the original motion? Further discussion? Dr. Wisniewski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a stickler for process and policy procedures. The last group of books that came before the board, we did receive copies of those texts. And I'm aware of at least another board member that did not receive copies of the text. So I'm inquiring as to why that didn't happen this time, because I didn't receive the electronic copies this time. Okay, so none of us got them because of budgetary concerns. Okay. Can a single board member just tell you to take it out of their salary? Because I mean, I'd be happy for you to take it out of my salary if it's really a concern. Okay, I think we do need to have a discussion about that because that's concerning to me that we did it once, but it didn't happen this go round. I'll table that discussion for another time. Can I continue, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I do have concerns about some of the visual depictions in a book that's referenced here. I have other concerns about content. We still don't have, or at least I haven't seen. I appreciate the school district moving very swiftly in working to revise the opt-out form. But this time I haven't seen one or heard about one. So I'll be down on this. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Rodriguez.
I just want to add though, if a parent has a concern and wants to opt out their child of a particular book or any of these books that are out here, just please contact and communicate with their school library and school librarian and school principal, and we will work to honor that.
Mr. Nay.
We did have somebody call in and say that they are using if I'm not mistaken, we had our call-in comment was they're using it. So it's already in use. That's one. What I find troubling about all this is that our first go around was 5 books, and that was tough to chew off, because I did my best to read them. I'm not going to let anybody tell me that I've never read these books because I'm trying. I really am trying. But to do as many books as we are this go around, I can't do that. I can't spend my entire day reading books to try to prepare myself for all these. So I'm going to abstain from this vote because I didn't get a chance to read any of these books at all. And that just bothers me.
Mr. Nay, I don't want to mislead you or anybody else. So I just want to clarify on the opt-out form. The caller who called in is using the existing opt-out form that the system has in place. So that I just want to be clear about that. Yes.
I have a comment, and I'm not going to read 96 books. I'm an avid reader. I read 2 to 3 books a week. Books that I like, I read very fast. I'm a speed reader. Books that I don't like, it takes me a long time. Reading 96 books, that's 50 weeks. I read reviews. I read reviews on all of these books. I read what was said, and I found that the books are high on the bestseller lists. I found that the books had value by many entities, school boards, school districts, and so on. It said, I didn't find one book that had, other than it had some obscenity, it had some profanity, but I didn't find one book that said that this had absolutely no value. I trust the committee that reads the books. I trust that the makeup of the committee is diverse enough to give me the confidence that they are reviewing the books and telling us what books are available, what books should be in the library. Now, I did read the book that the group said that should be banned. I read that one. And I couldn't understand why they said it was, and that's my opinion. But I'm not an educational expert. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a librarian. But I do know that my two grandsons, I would recommend those books for them to read. I don't think they'd like it because it's just not something that, they would really appreciate. They would see it as assignment for grandpa, and that's all it would be. But I'm not going to go and challenge the committee that said that it shouldn't be in the schools because I trust them. And that's what this is. This is trust. Do we trust them? The other thing about this is fundamentally about freedom to choose. And that's what bothers me about this. Our parents have the freedom to choose what books their children read. If they don't want, we don't force any child in this district to read a book. And the parent can say, I don't want that book to be changed, and a book that's in our AP courses, all they have to do is say, I don't want my child to read that book, and the teacher will pick an alternative book. That's a choice. They have freedom to choose. And to say that I want this book banned because another child may share it with my child. Well, you have a choice as a parent. You can go to another school that doesn't have that book at the library. You have that choice. If you want to, you have the choice to homeschool and keep your child in a bubble. And that's your choice. That's a choice that other parents don't want their children raised in a bubble. They have a choice that their child should be exposed to controversial subjects, to controversial moral judgments, and have the ability for a parent to guide them through that process so that when they leave home, they can deal with the temptation and deal with what you can read. A child raised in a bubble, my experience dealing with young men for 30 years, children raised in a bubble generally have problems when they get out on their own. So, but it's a choice. It's a parent's choice. It's freedom to choose. And so I think I'm going to accept the recommendations of the committee and let it go from there.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I could weigh in very, very briefly. A couple of points. One, the current opt-out form is pretty basic, pretty simple. Requires very little information, but it clearly enables the parent to basically ring fence their children if they want to protect their children from it and have their children not exposed. So there is personal liberty and freedom in giving that parent that authority. So that is one of the things I am really proud of about the way it's handled. And so I think that's the first line of defense. I also read reviews on the various books. The book that was suggested to be taken out of the library, that was what the committee ruled, and I support that. I feel like it shows that the committee is balanced, that there's not a prejudicial leaning that they have, that they're going to approve every book that comes through. So I think it validates the process. I think it validates the structure of the committees. And so when it comes time to vote, as shown by my second for this particular amendment, I think the committee is earning some credibility, even from people who may have originally opposed it. I know in my meanderings through the community, I've gotten that feedback. So I'm very comfortable. I think they've shown their mettle, and all of them are to be congratulated from where I sit. Thank you all.
Wisniewski.
Just like whenever you're ready, come on down. This is like a big gap here.
So to Mr. Dallas's point about the opt-out form and him thinking or believing that it's sufficient, I just would like to make this this one point. The opt-out form presently requires the title of the material, the author or creator, the school location, the publication year, the material type. It doesn't allow for a content opt-out. So the issue I have with the form right now is that the AR or the regulation from the district mentions the school libraries as well as classroom libraries. I know that we have a system right now for us to look up as parents titles of books in our libraries, but not classroom libraries. So this is effectively not useful to parents who don't know what's going on in individual classrooms and who haven't read all hundreds of books that are in the libraries. I mean, Colonel Geyer, you said you're not going to read 90-something books. How can we expect parents to read hundreds of books and understand and know the content and be able to name the titles and the authors of the books that they don't want their children to read? That is why I'm pushing so hard on the opt-out form. I think it's important that we provide parents with the opportunity to opt out based on specific content that they don't want their children to consume. It's not necessarily about a specific book. It's about the content and what parents deem acceptable for their children to be reared on. So I just want to make sure that I'm very clear to everyone on that point. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to take this opportunity to say that I was very impressed by all our speakers, but in particularly some of our students and local students, because I am concerned. I have 2 college-age students and 1 student at home. And you know, what you see on college campuses is that people disagree. They shout the other person down. They call it the heckler's veto. And we've seen that going on. And in fact, they did a survey and 77% of students at MIT said the heckler's veto was a completely appropriate way to shout down someone you disagreed with. And I have to say, I was very impressed by all of you. You came up, you had done research, data, you made compelling arguments. So I just want to work that in there. But then the other thing is, again, going back to why I made the amendment, et cetera, this process of having a contemporary community review of materials for obscenity is in lockstep with, I think I'm going to quote this 1954 Supreme Court decision, which basically acknowledged that mores are different between different communities and different times. So they said the way you test whether or not something's obscene, and of course, there's the famous line about, I don't know how to define pornography, but you know it when you see it. What the gentleman, Supreme Court Justice Miller, came up with was this test where basically a contemporary community reviewed something for whether or not it was a prurient interest, which goes to the erotic comments from earlier. So in other words, was it just for erotica? Did it have any literary or aesthetic or artistic value? And so to me, the process that we have here at Beaufort County School District is an excellent, professional, well thought out process. And that's why I will support this amendment, support this motion, even though my amendment failed, because I think that's a great process. I cannot, as one of 11 board members, decide where to draw that line. And I don't think that there's no line that we can draw that's going to make everyone happy. So I am pleased to step aside and let these committees. I have read many of these books. I have a daughter who got a degree in English from UC Berkeley. She had introduced me to some of these books. I'm familiar with them, but the bottom line is I don't feel like it's our job as a school board to agree or disagree. It's our job as a school board to let the community speak and then to allow to basically validate that the community was, not improperly formed or had some sort of problem. To me, that's what making a determination these materials are. So in conclusion, I will support the motion strictly because I think it's a great process. I think it was well handled, and I support that.
Comments, public comments are going to wait. Comments are going to wait. We're going to finish. You have something you want to say, Mr. Smith?
In terms of, I will definitely agree with Mrs. Boatwright about the students, about how they were very well intentional about what they came up here and said. You can tell that they put time into their research and that they didn't come up here with a bunch of fluff and emotions like, well, I just said they were fluff and emotion. They came up here with intentional research. They came up here with food for thought. They've even given me food for thought. And I could appreciate their continual fight because they sit through these meetings and they've shown that this is important to them. An old man once told me, he said, my grandbaby used to come by here every day. I used to give her $1 and she'd tell me she loved me. And so he said, one day I told her, don't tell me you love me, show me you love me, spend some time with me. And I appreciate them coming here and showing how serious they are. And I too do understand where Mrs. Dr. Wineski is talking about in terms of reading these books and having these books the first time and being able to digest them. Because some people learn different than others. And also some people like to have the content when they engage in this conversation and understand it. Because at the end of the day, your vote is an agreement with the committee, whether you like it or not, saying that you respect it and you're moving forward and that you're trusting them. But it's nothing like when your head hit the pillow at night to knowing that in your moral compass that you made the best decision and that the outcome is greater than it's going to benefit everyone versus it not being intentional with the way your energy should go. But just to wrap it up, I do understand what some of my colleagues have brought, and there's some things that I've kind of wrestled with, but more so, I do feel that people have took the time and they have read these books and they've made a decision. And in terms of the form, excuse me, my mind was thinking faster than what my brain was processing it. In terms of the form, what concerns me and what concerned me at first hearing about the forms is as simple as this. If you don't want your kids to have access to these books, email the principal. If it's that important, my grandma once said, people take time out for what they want. If it's that important, email the principal, stop by the school, tell the principal, look here, I don't want my child to check out no book in the library or no, none of the 96 books that are on there. That's a simple task because now you're taking the parental option to yourself and saying, look here, I don't want my child to have any one of those books. And I'm sure Dr. Rodriguez's staff will say, look here, tell that teacher, look, this parent stopped by the office and put it in writing. Point blank, period. They made the time out. It was important enough for them to email me or call me or make sure that I got it to say my child shouldn't have any of those 96 books. And that take care of some of the situation to go to even the colonel's guys a point. So with that's what makes me more lenient to support this. And in this process, I just don't feel that some of it could be misleading and undermining staff. And I'm going to support the staff. I don't want to do that. Thank you. Thank you, students, for being here.
Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Again, I apologize. I am stuffed up. One thing, well, actually it's two. The first thing is, I believe the committee was charged to read these books, come up with a ranking, and give that to us as a board, which helps us if we can't read the 96 books. And they've done that. And we do have to have some trust in what they've done because we want the community and parents to trust us. And number two, we're forgetting about the kids. I will tell you, children will come up to you and say, Ms. Boatwright, I can't read that book. My mom said, I can't watch that movie. They will let you know. A lot of them will, straight up. And so a lot of teachers do send home that form, and they send home that book that your child may be reading or that particular movie they're showing that day. So they have that opt out. B, the form may not be as, what do you say, as meticulous as you want it to be, or have all these things on it that you think you want it to have. But it has the essentials, the name of the book, the author, and the teacher will sometimes tell you what the content is. So I think we're just beating something that's already been somewhat simplified by the committee. No, I didn't read the books that's on this list because I didn't get that list. But I did read what that committee recommended, which we charged them with, which they took time to do. And I think it behooves me as a board member to look at that. If there's a book or two that I might want to read, I can get it. I can ask for it. But I think we're just beating something that we don't need to beat. There is a system in place. We may not like it, but there is an opt-out form. The librarians do a great job of it. And when you talk about the books that are in a teacher's library, is nowhere near 96 books. There are choice books that the teachers may pull out or put in there, for their kids to look at. But it's not 96. It's not 196. It might be 6, but the kids know what those books are. The teachers know. But it's not something that they bought, and just brought it in and had so much profanity and things that parents would not want their children to read. So let's just make that clear. And if it is, there is a system in place. Dr. Rodriguez and his staff will tell you, they really do. And I know the librarians do it. They try to make sure that the books that are there are books that they've been charged with getting, but they also, when a parent says no, they make sure that that child does not check that book out or get that book. And if a child does, it's not because the librarian didn't. They may get a friend to check it out for them. Kids are clever. They want to read something, they're going to read it. I think we need to give this committee the benefit of the doubt because we charged them. If not, why have the committee? We'll just sit here and read 96 books for 50 weeks. That's ludicrous. We had some children, what the girl say? She said, has a book ever killed somebody? I don't know if she's still here tonight, but I wrote down something else. Like I had to think about that. Has a book ever killed somebody? And she said, no, but she gave us an answer as to what does. There's violence. There are guns. There's safety issues we need to be worried about, but a book. And those parents who don't want their child to read something, I really don't want them telling me that my child can't read it because Colonel Geyer doesn't want his son to read it. It has nothing to do with me. It's personal. And as a board, collectively, we have challenged Dr. Regas and his staff to do a job. And now we're sitting here trying to figure out why should we do what they're suggesting we do. Thank you.
Ms. Middleton.
Mr. Vice Chair, I know we have a motion on the floor, but it's after 9:15. Is it okay that I make a motion that we continue with tonight's agenda until it's completed?
I'll second that motion.
In discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Nay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to say I really do appreciate the work of the committees. I know they're working hard and they're all volunteering. I don't agree with the makeup of the committees because the majority of the school district employees, one of which is a librarian. So I believe they're biased and possibly ethically conflicted because they agreed to have the book on the library in the first shelf or in the first place. So I'm not sure that I agree with that. As one of our students pointed out, some parents are so financially strained that they can't even get their kid to a public library, much less move. So I don't think that's an option. As far as books not killing people, the Crusades, and then have we ever considered maybe an opt-in? So if somebody wants to use a book in a curriculum, which a lot of these books have been are being used in curriculum, it seems like it would be a much less administrative burden on both the parent and the administration, the school boards or the school district, excuse me, to have an opt-in form, much less or much more an opt-out form. Seems like a lot less work to opt in for these books. That's all. Thank you.
January 19th, 2023. Book review committee findings of the following books. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye.
I can't hear, but I'm a no, a nay.
We're going to ask for nays. If you are a nay, any other nays?
Nay.
Total of 7 yes, you know, 1 abstain. Now we will break and have public comments, second session. We have one for the second period at Debbie Martin.
Yeah, I can barely hear to support what Ms. Hay was saying.
Okay, sorry, that I had my mic off. We have a public comment. Miss Debbie Barton is topic is books.
Is this mine? Okay. Okay, I'd like to make another quote, read off another quote from the famous, wonderful Thomas Sowell. Emotions neither prove or disprove facts. There was a time when any rational adult understood this, but years of dumbed down education and emphasis on how people feel have left too many people unable to see through this nonsense. More kids are being sexually victimized in the U.S. than ever before in our history, and very little is being done to prevent this from happening. In our society, I'm looking at a society thing now. Very young children are being constantly bombarded with extremely sick and twisted sexual messaging on television, in the movies, on the internet, and in their classrooms. What we are doing to American children under the guise of great literature, freedom of speech, and their First Amendment rights, This is beyond criminal. And if it's not reversed, our nation is not going to have a future. Every society throughout history that has violated children like we are violating them has fallen. If you actually believe that we are able to get away with this heinous and obscene crimes, you're being delusional. Of course, for the mental health for these children in the classrooms, but the basics, reading, positive subjects, writing, and arithmetic must be taught, and that will give them emotional strength for their future. Again, I'm going to repeat from this Milk and Honey book. If I, as an adult, handed this to a minor out in the public someplace, I would be arrested. Wake up.
Another person that would like to speak, and I can't read your writing. Is it Isabella? Please come forward and thank you.
All right. So what I'm about to read was written by Madeline, but she didn't have enough time to give everything in. So I would like to quickly say, I would just like to quickly say thank you for repeatedly listening to us, even though it's technically not your job, but it still means a lot to be listened to with respect. Your vote tonight has once again revealed me and my fellow students. Your vote tonight has once again revealed me and my fellow students, and has actually, it makes us feel listened to. Sorry. Sometimes it seems that as students, we don't have much power, that we're not taken seriously or heard, but your continued support has confirmed that our actions do matter. I hope that you continue on this path to protect the literacy of our youth, which includes me and my fellow students. Thank you. And from me personally, you guys are amazing. I don't think there's enough money in the world that could make me do your job. I don't get headaches often, but I get one at every single last one of these meetings. So I know that y'all have a good relationship with your neurologist. So just thank you guys so much for listening to us. It means a lot.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. We have another phone in.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure what kind of school district we're trying to run here, but I'll tell you something. This is disappointing for those of you that call yourself representatives of your voting base. You're not doing the right thing. The process is disgustingly invalid, and y'all are violating your oath of office by keeping these books in the schools. Shame on you, Mr. Geyer, for telling parents that they should pull their kids from the school when you're required by law to provide a safe environment for them to be in which to be educated. That's disgusting that you would actually say that. And I would consider yourself a man of a high level of intelligence, but that statement right there really lacks a whole lot of integrity. I'm you with that. It's unnecessary. For those of you who decided to keep these books, you'll be judged by your maker, not by me. It doesn't matter what I think. And for those of you who voted to keep these books, be prepared to face an investigation and the violation of your oath of office. Because I will not sit idly by while you abuse the process and you continue to employ people that have absolutely no respect for the rights of everyone. It's disgusting. Get a clue.
Thank you for your comment.
We now move to consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I was waiting for, I know.
Moved by Dr. Wisniewski, seconded by Ms. Ingram. Vote right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Future agenda topics.
So I have a question about that. You all, legislative committee, you all want to discuss Bill 244 or all of the bills that are on the
All of the
list?
bills.
Okay, so all of the bills.
At a
Okay,
work session. Work session.
March,
At a, yeah.
March, yes.
Future agenda topic?
I actually, I was gonna, well, no, I just leave it alone.
Oh, you got it?
I'll leave it alone.
Mark. Mr. Nay, other future agenda, I have a future agenda topic. I'd like to put on the agenda, the Labico property that the school district owns as an agenda topic.
That seems like something that would go to the operations committee. Chair of the operations.
The operations committee is going to address it too, but I'm talking for the next board meeting.
Can I ask a question? I would like to know when we're going to get the CIP. I mean, it's February. What's the timeline? Come on down. You're the next contestant.
The electronic version will go out this week as early possibly as tomorrow. There were some comments we got later today, so I don't know if it'll make tomorrow, but we'll get it out this week. The hard copy we're hoping to have for the operations committee on the 14th.
Ms. Gordon?
I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but I got a phone call from a parent. And the parent was concerned about a disciplinary action, which, Mr.
I would just say, when we conclude here, if you share with me and who the parent is, and we will reach out.
Will do.
Thank you.
But that wasn't my question.
Go ahead.
But the question was the process for disciplinary actions. You guys may have already gone over that, but just the procedures for suspensions and things like that. But I will definitely share with you.
Okay, perfect.
We add that as a topic. Any other future agenda topics?
I don't have any topics, but I just want to say this because I think this was mentioned in that by one of the caller about CRT. And if you ask most people about CRT, they can't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not being taught in our schools. So I can't understand why they keep bringing it up. Thank you.
Is there any announcements?
Yes. Mr. Vice Chair, in terms of, if I may I?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Dallas.
At some point, it might be worthwhile to have a discussion about measurement of results and how that can help in a workforce become very directed and cohesive, even more so than what it is now, which is very good. But it makes it very efficient for the governing body to look at the metrics, the numbers of how things are going. And it can be a very efficient way of supporting an organization. So that may be a topic at some point.
You get that? Thank you. Announcements. Did you have an announcement, Mr. Smith?
I would like to, first I'd like to acknowledge that this is a Black History Month. It's very important that we do in the process of understanding our students that we do recognize it, and we do recognize that also being a part of that is a part of student identity. But also Battery Creek High School has a Black History program on Monday, February the 27th at 1 p.m. And I just want to put that out there, but I just wanted to say that I would like, in terms of month like this, as in Black History Month, Hispanic Month, when we do points of celebration, that that we announce that on the front end, that this board, we do acknowledge that as a district, that which month that is, because we have the activities happening in our schools and throughout our district. But I think that it's important to let Black and Brown and other Hispanic or whatever it is to know that we do support that, we do acknowledge that. It's the same way we acknowledge Veterans Day and MLK and other days, because that's important. Even though it's the shortest month of the year, that is just we discussing these books is a part of it. I just figured that should be announced at the beginning of the meeting. That's my announcement. Thank you.
Dr. Rodriguez, do you have any announcement?
Just a reminder, we talked about it before, but just a reminder that Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the African American History Education Conference that we put on in conjunction with our educational partners at USCB and TCL. So just a reminder about that.
Hearing no other announcements, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.